In hall, please. I repeat it. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we cordially invite you to be seated at the prescribed chair in the main hall, please. Because in a few minutes, the ceremony will proceed in no time. Thank you.
Cek, tes, cek, cek.
Universitas Islam Negeri Salatiga merupakan satu-satunya perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di kota Salatiga. UIN Salatiga memiliki 5 fakultas dan terbagi di 3 kampus dengan titik lokasi yang berbeda. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam terletak di Kampus 1 UIN Salatiga, tepatnya di Jalan Tentara Pelajar nomor 02 Kota Salatiga. Fakultas Syariah dan Fakultas Usuluddin Adab dan Humaniora terletak di Kampus 2, tepatnya di Jalan Nakula Sadewa, Kembang Arum, Kelurahan Dukuh, Kecamatan Sidomukti, Kota Salatiga. Fakultas Dakwah dan Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan terletak di Kampus 3, tepatnya di Jalan Lingkar Selatan, Kilometer 2, Kelurahan Pulutan, Kecamatan Sidorejo, Kota Salatiga. Nah, selamat datang di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam UIN Salatiga. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam memiliki visi dan misi sebagai berikut. Visi: menjadi Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam yang unggul dan menjadi rujukan di Indonesia dalam pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian masyarakat bagi terwujudnya masyarakat yang damai bermartabat pada tahun 2029. Misi: 1. Mengembangkan program studi sebagai Center of Research ilmu-ilmu ekonomi dan bisnis Islam. 2. Memberikan layanan prima kepada mahasiswa dalam mengembangkan kemampuan akademik dan profesionalisme di bidang ekonomi dan bisnis Islam. 3. Menciptakan lulusan yang kompeten dan siap mengelola lembaga-lembaga ekonomi dan bisnis Islam sesuai dengan tuntutan pasar industri. 4. Menciptakan calon pelaku ekonomi dan bisnis Islam yang jujur, amanah, dan menguasai ekonomi mikro dan makro, juga ilmu-ilmu keislaman. 5. Menciptakan lulusan yang mampu mengembangkan ekonomi Islam yang dapat diterapkan kepada masyarakat. Keenam, menjalin kerjasama dengan berbagai lembaga dalam skala regional, nasional, dan Asia Tenggara di bidang pendidikan, penelitian, pengabdian masyarakat untuk menunjang pengembangan sumber daya. Dan yang terakhir, menyelenggarakan pemberdayaan ekonomi dan bisnis Islam dengan menerapkan nilai-nilai kearifan lokal. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam sendiri memiliki 4 program studi, diantaranya Perbankan Syariah, Manajemen Bisnis Syariah, Akuntansi Syariah, dan Ekonomi Syariah. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam terletak di pusat kota Salatiga, sehingga aksesnya mudah dan dekat dengan fasilitas publik lainnya. Dan meskipun terletak di pusat kota, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam tetap sejuk dan nyaman. Fakultas ini memiliki berbagai fasilitas untuk menunjang aktivitas pembelajaran mahasiswa. Di antaranya, perpustakaan yang tenang dan nyaman di setiap sudutnya. Kemudian ada bank mini untuk menunjang praktikum mahasiswa, dan ada lab komputer yang digunakan mahasiswa untuk keperluan pembelajaran. Demikianlah pengenalan singkat tentang UIN Salatiga dan salah satu fakultasnya, yaitu Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam. Nah, untuk UIN Salatiga sendiri baru saja resmi beralih status dari Institut Agama Islam Negeri menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan diterbitkannya Peraturan Presiden Nomor 88 Tahun 2022 pada tanggal 8 Juni tahun 2022. Dengan alih status ini, semoga UIN Salatiga bisa semakin eksis dengan berbagai prestasinya, baik di bidang akademik maupun non-akademik, dan tentunya sebagai pusat pembelajaran, UIN Salatiga terus berkomitmen untuk mencetak generasi muda Islam yang dapat berkontribusi pada kemajuan bangsa Indonesia.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we cordially invite you to be seated at the prescribed chair in the main hall, because in a few minutes the ceremony will proceed in no time. Thank you. I repeat it. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we cordially invite you to be seated in the prescribed chair in the main hall, please, because in a few minutes the ceremony will proceed in no time. Thank you.
Cek, tes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'du. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the third annual International Conference on Islamic Economics and Business, EICIEB, with the theme Circular Economy, Acceleration on Business Recovery from the Islamic Economics Perspective. First of all, let's praise to our God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, the creator and the sustainer of the universe. Peace be upon Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the last messenger of Allah, who guided us from the distraction into the right way of Islam. Before we proceed the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency, Professor Zakiuddin Baidowi, as a rector of UIN Salatiga, that will be represented by Dr. Agus Waluyo and Dr. Sidkon Mansur as the vice rector. Honorable, all of the speakers, Professor Mansur Ibrahim, Professor Nurul Indarti, Mr. Imam Hidayat PhD, Mr. Hamzah Rafiq PhD, and Mr. Bayu Arifianto PhD. Respectable, the Chairman of AFEBIS. Honorable, the Director of KNEKS. Respectable, Executive Board of Lamemba, the Vice Rectors, Deans, and the Director of Postgraduate Program in UIN Salatiga, the Deans and the Head of Study Programs of PTKIN all over Indonesia, and also all of the audiences that I cannot mention one by one. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Imanda Firmantias Putri. It is an awesome and precious chance for me to be your Master of Ceremony. In this morning, Tuesday, 21st June 2022, in our big event, the third annual International Conference on Islamic Economics and Business, EICIEB. This event is a series of events with the aims to exchange the latest information and knowledge related to the business recovery, to provide quick win policy on strengthening business recovery and prosperous society in Indonesia by becoming the leading center for Islamic economy in the world, to increase the scientific publication of the Faculty of Economics in Indonesia in terms of Islamic economics and business. Today we will join the main event, namely the International Conference and parallel session for call for papers, followed by a consortium of study programs, the AFEBIS plenary meetings, the MOU of all FEBI deans with AFSI, and will be ended with the socialization of the Lamemba accreditation instrument. To start our opening ceremony today, allow me to read the following agendas. The first is the opening by reciting Basmalah, second, singing the national anthem of Indonesia, third, reciting Al-Quran, fourth, prayer, fifth, the conference, and sixth is the closing. For the information, the conference started with the opening by a representative of Central Java Governor, which was held last night at this Merapi Hall Laras Asri Resort. So that for the VIP audiences, if you have any other important agenda, you are allowed to continue your activity after the prayer. For additional information, this event is sponsored by Bank Indonesia and Bank Syariah Indonesia. This event was carried out in a hybrid, Offline events held in this hall in Laras Asri Hotel, and online events held in Zoom platform and also by live streaming on YouTube, Febi Win Salatiga. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's open this agenda by saying Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Step on the following agenda is singing the national anthem of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we are inviting you to stand up, please. Ladies and gentlemen, you are permitting to sit down back, please. The next agenda is reciting the Holy Quran by Miss Aufa Abdillah. To Miss Aufa, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa uzlifatil jannatu lil muttaqina ghayra ba'id. Hadza ma tu'aduna likulli awwabin hafiz. man khasyarrahmana bil ghaibi wa jaa biqalbin munib. Udkhuluha bisalamin dzalika yaumul khulud. Udkhuluha bisalamin dzalika yaumul khulud. Udkhuluha bisalamin dzalika yaumul khulud. Lahum ma yasha'una fiha wa ladaina mazid. Sadaqallahul azim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks to Miss Alfa Abdillah who has recited the Holy Quran. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala always guide us. Amin, amin, amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Now let's continue the next agenda. It is prayer by Dr. Ki Mangku Bahjatullah, MSI. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma ghafir lana dzunubana wali walidina warhamhum kama rabbawna shighara. Ya Allah, hari ini Selasa tanggal 21 Juni 2022, di tempat yang indah ini kita berkumpul di sini untuk mengadakan konferensi internasional ekonomi dan bisnis Islam. Jadikanlah konferensi internasional ini sebagai pertemuan ilmu pengetahuan yang bermanfaat, sebagai media untuk berbagi ide, pengetahuan, dan pengalaman yang bermanfaat. Dan semoga konferensi yang kami selenggarakan ini bermanfaat bagi kehidupan kami, memperluas pengetahuan kami, mencemerlangkan gagasan kami, dan memimpin kami untuk menjadi orang-orang yang produktif, yang sukses, yang pada gilirannya akan meningkatkan martabat bangsa kami. Ya Allah, tuntun dan berkatilah hati dan pikiran kami dengan cahaya bimbingan-Mu. Terapkanlah kebijakan-Mu pada kegiatan kami. Bantu kami untuk dapat berbicara dengan jelas dan fasih. Bantu kami untuk saling mendengarkan, saling menghormati, saling mencintai, sehingga kami termasuk orang-orang yang diberkati. Allahumma aslih lana dinana, alladhi huwa ismatu amrina, wa aslih lana dunyana, allati fiha ma'ashuna, wa aslih lana akhiratana, allati fiha ma'aduna. Waj'alil hayata ziyadatan lana fi kulli khair, waj'alil mauta rahatan lana min kulli syar. Ya Allah, perbaikilah agama kami dan cara kami beragama, karena ini akan menjadi perisai kami dalam segala urusan. Perbaikilah dunia kami di mana kami mencari kehidupan di dalamnya. Perbaiki akhirat kami di mana kami akan datang menghampirinya. Ya Allah, jadikanlah kehidupan kami sebagai tambahan untuk berbuat kebaikan, dan jadikanlah kematian kami sebagai akhir dari dosa-dosa yang kami telah lakukan. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah wal mu'afatad da'imata fid dini wad dunya wal akhirah. Ya Allah, kami memohon keselamatan dan ampunan selama-lamanya untuk kebaikan agama, dunia dan akhirat kami. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa baraka wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you to Dr. Kimangku Bahjatullah for the prayer. And ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main program, the conference session, who will be led by our moderator, Mr. Agung Guritno, MPD. But before I hand over this event to Mr. Agung Guritno, please allow me to read the CV of Mr. Agung Guritno. Mr. Agung Guritno was born in Mataram, February 19, 1982. He is the Secretary of Sharia Accounting Department of FEBI UIN Salatiga. Currently, he takes his doctoral program at Universitas Semarang. He has a lot of work experience, both as practitioners and as academician. Was the banker for 3 years. He spent his 2008 till 2011 in Bank Panin and BNI Syariah. Then he started his academic career in IAIN Mataram for 2013 to 2015. And finally here he is, joining us in UIN Salatiga from 2015 until now. And Mr. Agung Guritno, now is the time. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Imanda. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We would start our main session soon. However, due to the time constraint issue, so we have to divide our session into 2 sessions. The first is International Forum, and the speakers would be of Mansur Ibrahim, PhD, and also Dr. Rafiq Hamza, PhD. And after that, we will have Indonesian Forum. Then the speakers are Professor Nurul Indarti, PhD, Bapak Bayu Arifianto, PhD, and Bapak Imam Hidayat Sunarto. Okay, without further speaking, I would like to invite Professor Mansur Ibrahim, PhD, to come up to the stage. Okay, so, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you'll be there. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wala hawla wala quwata illa billah, amma ba'da. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third annual International Conference on Islamic Economics and Business, or Aicieb, IAIN Salatiga, that today on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. For this occasion, Aicieb theme is Circular Economy, Acceleration on Business Recovery from the Islamic Economic Perspective. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we know COVID-19 has hit us very hard. Yeah. Among those sectors or fields in our daily life that hit very hard by COVID-19, then education and also the economic. Then we now live side by side with COVID-19, and we are now also try to recover from the effect of the COVID-19. Then for the recent condition of economy, there is a circular economy. This is like not really a new thing actually, but this is very, very important in economy. But maybe not all of us know what is circular economy. And maybe only few people know very little about circular economy. They know like 5 R, yeah? Reuse, recycle, reduce, recovery, and the last, yeah, reuse, reduce, recycle, and recover. Yeah. Then, what is the relation between circular economy and also the acceleration on business recovery? So we will discuss about this matter today, yeah, with 5 speakers. But for this first session, we will discuss it with Prof. Mansur Ibrahim, yeah. And then I would like to read a little bit about the curriculum vitae from Professor Mansur Ibrahim. Professor Mansur Ibrahim is Deputy President Academic and Dean of International Center for Education in Islamic Finance in Malaysia. And for the educational background, he finished his bachelor, yeah, Prof, on Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, USA, also from the master and also for the PhD. So the same university from bachelor to the PhD. Okay. Then the specialization from Prof. Mansur, that monetary economics or macroeconomics, then applied econometrics, economic development, Islamic banking also. And for the work experiences, actually this is very amazing, Prof, because from 1996 until 2009, Professor Mansur was a dean and also postgraduate coordinator in International Islamic University Malaysia, or IIUM. Then from 2009 until 2011, as head of Department of Economic in University Putra Malaysia, or UPM, and from 2011 until now in INSAFE, yeah, Prof. Okay. Then I believe, as the academician, yeah, we know some reputable journals, yeah, and Prof. Mansur also outstanding reviewers, I think, yeah, because, yeah, we can name any journal, like Pacific Basin Finance Journal, Borsa Istanbul Review, International Journal of Islamic and Middle Eastern Finance, yeah. Prof. Mansur is the reviewer, yeah, Prof. Okay. Then for this occasion, Prof. Mansur will deliver his speech about Islamic finance and inclusive recovery post-pandemic. Prof. Mansur, We have time about 25 minutes for you to deliver the speech. Yeah, then the floor is yours, Prof. You may while sitting or in podium or in while working. Yeah, on phone. Okay, please. Sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa man tabi'ahu bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rector, Vice Rector and representative who are here, and Dr. Anton, the Chief of the committee for this international conference, and the Dean of Islamic Economic and Business Faculty, UIN Salatiga, all deans, and my fellow speakers for today's sessions, and all officers of UIN Salatiga. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
And first of all, Alhamdulillah, with thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also thanks to the organizer for inviting me to be here. The first time in Salatiga has been in Jakarta as well as Surabaya for many occasions, but this is the first time I think I came to Salatiga. I was in Semarang maybe 15 years back for education promotion for IUM. Right? So now I'm back in the Jawa Tengah, Alhamdulillah. Right? And I have only roughly 20 minutes, so I have to be quick, prepare something. And my topics, or what I would like to discuss today, is not directly related to circular economy, but it's part of basically circular economy by putting the word inclusive, right? Because inclusive recovery, right? Because I put some thought on what I should speak in this occasion, but I would say that the most important part, yang paling penting pada masa ini ialah recovery from so many things that happened over the past 2 years, right? Not only the pandemic, but there are many things yang berlaku and mempengaruhi ataupun affect all of us. So I would like to focus on inclusive recovery, because part of inclusivity is not only about these generations, but also about future generations. And when it's about future generations, it's more important in order to create apa yang dikatakan sebagai balance or natural balance dalam economic systems. And I will focus more on Islamic finance. Islamic finance. The reasons being, rata-rata Islamic finance merupakan sebahagian yang terbesar yang membiayai syariah ekonomi. Pentingnya ataupun the future expansions of syariah ekonomi bergantung kepada efficiency ataupun performance of Islamic banking and finance or Islamic financial system. So that's the topic that I have chosen for today. But let me give you a little bit of the setting of what we have gone through for the past 2.5 years or past 4 years. Right? We have so many things that happens that affected us. I think in late 2019, roughly December 2019, right, COVID-19 started, and in March 2020, declared by the World Health Organizations (WHO) as the pandemic, and now we are moving into the endemic era, right? And in terms of international politics or geopolitics, right, we have U.S. and China trade, which have started in 2018. And then this year, earlier this year, we have invasions of Ukraine. the Russia-Ukraine war, which started on 24th February. Right? And when we look at the oil market, begitu volatile in the oil market, I think we may have remembered some point in time yang mana harga mentah minyak fall below $0 USD, maknanya negatif. And then before COVID, roughly harga minyak 30 and 40 USD, but now it's more than 100. Right? And not only the oil prices, but then many commodity prices increasing. Right? And we also have a crash of other asset prices like crypto and so on. So many things happen right now, right, that have created a perfect storm for what we term as stagflations, yang mana kita mengalami bukan sahaja recessions tapi juga inflasi yang tinggi. Right? Dan impacts perkara yang berlaku yang berterusan daripada COVID-19 kepada peningkatan harga mentah minyak dan juga food prices, Ukraine war dan sebagainya. Kalau kita lihat daripada unjuran ataupun projections of economic growth dunia, the global growth, right, diunjur turun kepada 2.9%. Pada Jun 8, 2021, the World Bank projected the growth will be 4.3% untuk for the global growth. Then pada January 11, 2022, is projected downward to 4.1%. And then this month, June 8, at the beginning of the year, the projections of growth is 2.9%. So that provided us menggambarkan impact daripada COVID-19, Ukraine war, food prices, and many other things that have taken place. And we may be heading toward what we term as stagflations. Now, if we remember, kalau kita ingat semalam wakil governor memberikan statistik mengenai pertumbuhan even di Salatiga, yang mana terdapat constrictions dan juga ada fiscal constraints, pembelajaran kerajaan yang perlu diarahkan kepada menangani masalah COVID-19. So that what happened in terms of the impact, right? In terms of the impact. Now, the implications of all these things is quite obvious. I will give you some figure of the implications, right? And which is quite obvious. The next one, next slide, the implications of the impacts adalah recessions. If you look at, we recovered, but our recovery is not as strong as what happened dalam tahun 1997. In 1997, for example, our growth contracts substantially, but 1999 we went up back. So what people call as V-shaped recovery. You go down, contractions, then you go up immediately. But now the picture is not like the V-shapes. Right? We have contractions in the year of 2020, as well as the late 2020, as well as early 2021. But then the recovery kind of slower than what we have observed before. So it's not just V, but maybe L-shaped recovery that we are going to have. And recessions never be inclusive. Maknanya apabila berlakunya recessions atau berlakunya inflasi, hanya certain segments of the population will be affected ataupun will be affected more. Rata-ratanya the poor ataupun yang dikatakan the bottom 40 will be affected more as a result of recessions and as a result of inflations. And we observe in terms of implications, ada kenaikan ataupun in terms of percentage of extreme poverty increase, and income inequality, ketidaksamarataan in terms of pendapatan ataupun incomes, right, widening, where we observe that B40 again will be affected more. And we have a lot of problems, climate changes, right? And the process yang kita lihat ialah increasing trade barriers in terms of deglobalizations, starting with US as well as China trade war, and then we have a lot of deglobalizations. For example, in the context of India, that stop exporting the wheat, right, and many other nations, right, as part, of course, as sanction toward Russia and so on. So the process of deglobalization taking place. Now, just to give you the idea, in terms of the impact, right? In terms of the impact of the many things that have happened in the last 4 years, right? So can we show the next one, the next slide, and next, one more, right? The next slide. Okay, these are the study that has been done by the World Bank, right? Now, if we look at this graph, provide very simple picture apa yang berlaku ataupun impact daripada COVID-19, commodity price increase, and then the unending geopolitical risks that have taken place for the past 2 or 3 years. Kalau kita lihat gambarnya di sebelah kiri. Sebelah kiri, the first one there, dia memberi gambaran perubahan in term of income loss, the drop in income, pendapatan yang menurun, perbandingan di antara B40, iaitu those who have income at the bottom 40 dengan those who have income at the top 40. They provide you the share of those people who have income drop, right? So if you look at the value mostly positive, which means that the B40 itu affected more. The share of B40 percentage, B40 that have income drop is higher than the share of top 60 yang mengalami income drops. So which means that distribution of income has been affected. And yang paling merisaukan in term of the impacts ialah gambar di tengah, yang mana impact ini berlaku kebanyakannya di urban areas. So we have the problem of rising urban poverty, right? Kemiskinan bandar, right? Di kawasan-kawasan bandar. Why? Because they are shifted in income, right? Now, if we want to look at in terms of extreme poverty, we know COVID-19 and the event that have taken place menyebabkan so many people have been thrown into extreme poverty. Now, if we look at the next picture, the next slide, right? Now, if we look at the next one, yeah, this one, the right hand provide you if COVID doesn't happen. If COVID doesn't happen, the extreme poverty will drop. But just because COVID, kalau kita lihat pada gambar aja yang di tengah, menunjukkan bahawa disebabkan oleh COVID, extreme poverty ataupun kadar ataupun poverty rates adalah meningkat di banyak negara. Kalau kita lihat Philippines, ketara meningkat, Honduras meningkat in term of the extreme poverty. Right? I don't have data for Malaysia and don't have data for Indonesia. But then saya yakin juga di Indonesia ataupun di Malaysia, extreme poverty increase as a result of COVID-19. Right? And then we have basically the net impacts of the COVID-19 menyebabkan peningkatan dari sudut poverty. Now, and one more thing, these are income distributions, yang mana the Gini merupakan satu alat pengukur income inequality, ketidakrataan pendapatan households, isi rumah ataupun individu, yang mana income inequality meningkat, right? Dan juga pendapatan yang top to the bottoms meningkat. Maknanya ada jurang, ada gap di antara income between the poor and the rich. Right. Now, why I mention this? What are the reasons I mention all these contexts? Now, if we look back, Islamic finance ataupun dikatakan perbankan Islam atau syariah banking ataupun Islamic financial systems has been here for many years. Right. Kalau di Malaysia, for example, bermula daripada tabung haji dan juga Bank Islam pada tahun 1982, now have been here for more than 40 years. Right. And juga di negara-negara lain have been here 30 years, 40 years. Right. And in 1997, apabila kita mengalami Asian financial crisis, Islamic banking masih kecil. Kalau di Malaysia pada masa itu hanya 5% in term of market share perbankan Islam. Dan di negara-negara lain juga masih rendah. Maka impact pada masa itu ataupun peranan Islamic banking pada masa tersebut, kita tidak boleh, we cannot see yet at that time. Right? But then after Asian financial crisis, Islamic banking atau Islamic finance berkembang dengan pesatnya, yang mana di beberapa buah negara dikirakan sebagai systematically important, yang mana market share melebihi 15%. Dan saya dipahamkan di Indonesia masih bawah 10%, lebih kurang 7 ataupun 8% di sekitar penetration perbankan Islam. Tapi di negara-negara lain 15%. So pada masa Asian financial crisis, we cannot see the impact yet of Islamic finance. But now at this time, when we have COVID-19, many people are thrown into poverty, and we try to recover from the adverse shocks from the COVID-19 and many other things. Persoalannya ataupun question that we have to ask, what are the role of Islamic finance in inclusive recovery? Because yang paling pentingnya, we recover, but it have to be inclusive. Right? Saya rasa sesuai dengan tema G20 yang di Indonesia. Right? Recover together, recover stronger, which means it have to be inclusive. We have to be together in recovering from the crisis. So what are the role of Islamic finance in there? Right? Now, sedikit secara brief tentang Islamic finance. Now, when we say Islamic financial system, what is exactly Islamic financial system? Right? Now, if we take a look at Islamic financial system, mostly kalau dalam journals ataupun dalam artikel, mostly akan berbincang tentang Islamic banking, Islamic capital market, takaful. Right? But that adalah sebahagian daripada Islamic financial system yang memfokuskan kepada business Islamic finance, iaitu Islamic finance yang bertujuan business activities. Right? Tapi ada sebahagian yang lain, Islamic financial system adalah bahagian dikatakan social finance, which is extremely important for inclusive recovery. Right? And social finance, contohnya charity ataupun yang wajib, zakat, as well as voluntary, awqaf, and those are basically Islamic social finance. Now, but these two alone, right, are not yet the whole system. Right? The whole system are not yet the whole Islamic financial institutions. Right? Because rata-ratanya selalunya kita fokus kepada banking, kita fokus kepada wakaf, right? Kita fokus pada zakat, tapi satu elemen yang paling penting that define the systems, right, that make system to run properly, right, is these three sets that I term it as the Sharia principles that underline the Islamic financial system. Syariah ialah perundangan Islam. Kalau dalam bidang konvensional, it's just the rules and regulations that govern the functioning of financial system. Dan juga enforcement mechanism, kehakiman, right? Badan keadilan ataupun lembaga hisbah yang enforce the functioning of systems supaya menjadi adil. Right? Itu yang paling penting. Dan yang ketiga yang juga sangat penting dalam pembentukan Islamic financial system yang mana kadang-kadang kita terlupa, inilah sangat penting, ialah what dalam bidang ekonomi institution dipanggil sebagai informal rules, right? Informal rules ataupun codes of conduct ataupun ethics, right? Etika seseorang. Ini sangat penting. Recognize even dalam bidang ekonomi konvensional, the ethical rules, very important. Because we know dalam pembelajaran ekonomi ataupun ekonomi konvensional, ekonomi syariah, kita belajar ialah gelagat ataupun kelakuan households, firms. We study the behavior. What constrain the behavior? Why we do certain actions? Right? Why certain firms produce certain things and not other things? Why households choose to consume this product, choose to buy this product? We study the behavior. And our behavior are constrained by a set of laws. Some law, regulation are formal oleh pemerintah. But some laws within ourselves, what we term as code of conduct. Right? Now, kalau kita lihat daripada sejarah, for example, in term of sejarah Islam sendiri pun, right? When we look at in term of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been sent for what purpose? Of course, for spreading the wonders of Allah, the Tawhidic principles, but one more important is that the Prophet has been sent to perfect the character. Right? Liutammima makarimal akhlaq. Right? Why? Because these are very important element in economics. Right? Recognized even by the Western economists. Right? And in fact, the one that promotes basically the importance of social aspect, ethics, and so on, they received Nobel Prize in 1993, right? In terms of economic of institutions. Very important that we are forgetting in the context of the importance of this informal aspect, the rules, the ethics part, the social part, the social capitals, right? Because normally we are driven by human capital, physical capital, but we are forgetting social capital, which are very important, our ethical aspect. So in building the Islamic financial system, if we want to recover together, right, it's not enough to have banking yang besar ataupun canggih. It's not enough to have a good awqaf system, right? It's not enough to have a zakat institutions. They must be run by individuals, and individuals must be a persons of amanah that have certain value in them, right? So system and humans go together, right? System and human go together, and that's why in the book of that Nobel laureate, pemenang Nobel pada 1993, they look at humans, they look at the system, and both have to go together if we would like to have progress or recovery from the crisis. And that one very important part, right? Now, is Islamic finance capable? Adakah Islamic finance mempunyai kemampuan untuk mendorong kepada the inclusive recovery? The answer is yes, right? The answer is yes. But what need to be there is something that I would like to emphasize. What is needed to be done for Islamic finance to push for inclusive recovery, right? There must be something different, because so far, if you look at, I'm not sure here in terms of discussions, but in the Malaysian context, so far they are still skeptical. Kita masih ragu tentang Islamic banking, right? Kita melihat in terms of the pandemic, kita melihat in terms of one time happened in one part in Selangor, Malaysia, big flood, banjir. Yang mana rumah musnah, kereta semua musnah. But then we do not see Islamic banking coming forward, right? But most of the time we see conventional banking coming forward first, and then Islamic banking coming after, right? So that's what we have observed in terms of the past. But in terms of potentials, I would say Islamic banking have potentials, and there are a lot of studies that has been done that try to look at the impact of Islamic banking. We see positive things. Right? We see positive things. But then let me go through toward the end, without discussing in terms of the impact of the studies that I have done, and many others have done. I think we go to the last one in terms of challenges or what need to be done. What need to be done for us to be able to recover together or recover stronger, which means in the context of inclusive recovery. Right? Now, pertamanya ialah Islamic finance must be functioning as a system. When I said a system, it means that it have to have business elements, right? It have to have social elements. We cannot expect Islamic banking to function as a social institution, right? We need Islamic banking and Islamic capital market to function as a profit-making institution. Now, it may be strange, right? When I say profit institutions, the reason is very simple, right? To do goods, you must have wealth, right? Even dalam ibadah contohnya, right? We are asked to go out and seek, right, the abundance of Allah that have been provided, which means we have to seek wealth, right? And to complete our Rukun Islam, we have to have wealth, which means for Hajj, right now Muslim Hajj. So there must be some institutions that are profit-seeking, but not excessive profit, of course, but that profit-seeking. Because once you have profits, right, the portion of the poor is in that profit. Right? Once you don't have profit, then where is the portion of the poor? So which means there must be one segment in society that basically look for profit, building wealth, be productive, and that one really important. But that segment must be interconnected as a system with the social financial institutions. Right? Now we look at basically these two institutions work separately or not so close. Right? In the context, I give you more experience of Malaysia, for example. Banking is banking, Awqaf is under Sultan. Right? So Sultan is oversee the Waqaf, so they are not working closely together, but they will have to work as a system. And that one very important. As well as the human that run it would be very important. Right? And the second part that Islamic finance have to do, and I think is the high time, is the integrations of the principles ataupun criteria of Sharia compliance with the principle of inclusivity. Right? Part of it embedded in ESG ataupun SDG. Right? Part of it. Right? Because I'm not going to say that all SDG ataupun ESG are complying with the Sharia. We have to look at those ESG or SDG, whether they are complying with the Sharia or not. Right? So that one, basically, there must be integrations. Right? Now, I have mentioned many times, being Sharia compliance, syarikat ataupun business activities, is not sufficient. Right? It's not sufficient. Now, even in our part, for example, right, we have categories. We are Muslim, Mu'min, and Muhsin. Right? Now, so far, in terms of the firm, we are only Sharia compliance. So we are at lowest levels. We are at the lowest level. We passed being Islamic, but then at the lowest level. Why? Because we just look at activities that we do. We just look at whether the sources of income are prohibited ataupun haram ataupun tidak. But then we have to integrate with impacting the peoples, right? Impacting the environments, right? Impacting the society. And that one really important part. So that basically to do good to society. And this one must be integrated, right? Must be integrated into the system. Because we have seen many Islamic or Sharia compliant firms, sometimes they are not truly Islamic because of the violation of many things. Labor relations, environmental damages, and so on, right? So that's why it's very important to have that integration, right? And then the third one, for us to have, I think, inclusive recovery, and that I would say is my job and all of your jobs, is to build up human capitals embedded with values. Embedded with value, because these are the people that are going to run the system. right? You can have Islamic financial systems that are perfect, but then if the person that runs the system is not perfect, the Islamic financial system will be basically collapse at the end. Will collapse at the end. That's what I foresee. So we need to build, and this one is our job in terms of promoting inclusivity, which is basically have Islamic financial system in place, but I mentioned it's not sufficient for inclusive growth, right? Because the system are managed and handled by human beings, right? So which means that we must be able to produce human capitals, right? Mereka-mereka yang beramanah dalam menjalankan tugas. And that one very important part that many people have missed, right? Let me end this by providing one study that has been done in Italy. A very important study, and this study is published in 1990s by Robert Putnam, right? They study the southern and northern Italy. Italy di bahagian utara dan juga di bahagian selatan, right? What they observe is that there are differences. Di bahagian utara, rakyatnya more happy, have better income, right? Better standard of living. Di selatannya, rakyatnya lebih miskin and less happy. Now, the problem people try to look at, what are the reasons? Because of industry? The answer is no. Because of capital? The answer is no, because they are the same countries. So the study has been done, they try to look at what makes the northern Italy to be important is the human beings that are more ethical. Right? They are more cooperative, they are more inclusive, they get together a lot. Right? And that's why they make them to be progressing. Right? As what we always know, right? In terms of if we want to progress and if we want to recover together, right? And if we want to go far, we have to work together. And that's what happened in northern Italy. They work together, they congregate together, right? They spend a lot of time in social function together. Right? So a lot of cooperation, and that the values that propel that progress. And I think that is the roles that we have to play as basically the lecturers or as a teachers. Kalau di UIA kita panggil as murabbi, right? UIA menjalankan konsep murabbi. And that's what we have to do in terms of promoting values. Because sustainability, ESG, SDG, inclusivity will not happen if we do not have very key important thing, values. And thanks to all of you. Wabillahi wa taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Mansur, for very comprehensive explanation. Then some points that I got from your speech that there are three steps for the Islamic finance to push the inclusive recovery. Like Islamic finance must have system and function, and also integration, Sharia compliance, and inclusivity. And the last is building human capital in embedded values. Okay, very nice material from Prof. Mansur. Then after this, we will have a second speaker, Prof. Then we will have a discussion section after the second speaker. Then I would like to greet Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. Halo, Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. Assalamualaikum. Ya. Dr. Rafiq Hamzah.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I should start.
Mas Bintang, can you show Professor Dr. Rafiq? Okay. Yeah. Dr. Rafiq Hamzah I would like to read your curriculum vitae first. Dr. Rafiq Hamza, PhD, is the Associate Professor at the Institute for International Strategy, Tokyo International University. And for educational background, 2011, he finished his bachelor in applied mathematics, Department of Mathematics, University of Hajj Lakhdar, Algeria. And 2014, he finished his master in cryptography and security, Department of Computer Science, University of Batna, Algeria. And in 2017, he finished his doctorate in cryptography and security. Then for the specialization, Dr. Rafiq Hamza is on cryptography with encryption, artificial intelligence-based privacy and security, computer security, also big data analytics, and many more, yeah. But it's still related to the computer. Then for working experiences, Dr. Rafiq Hamza was a mathematics teacher, yeah, from 2011 until 2014. And then for 2018 until 2019, he was a senior engineer at Algerian Oil and Gas Company. Then from 2019 until 2020, he was a postdoctoral research talent at Guangzhou University, China. Then for today's session, Dr. Rafiq Hamza will deliver his speech about digital economy. Then for Dr. Rafiq, you have about 25 minutes to deliver your speech. Time is yours, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه ومن تبعين. I am very glad about today's invitation. So it is a great honor and pleased to be here today to discuss about this important topic with you. So thank you again for the invitations. My presentation today will focus about the perspectives of digital economy and how we can actually use that in our world and advance our technology for technical and the technology aspects. Okay. So in general way, I would like just to mention some outlines that I will present today. We'll just start in with hello, and I will present some keywords that I will use. After that, I will actually mention some points in digital economy, and I will also discuss some successful story about the digital economies and how we can learn from them in order to improve our Islamic economy further and have maybe further important discussion from that. Of course, I will mention also some how we can start economy and how we can mention the keyword there specifically with their definitions. I will also discuss about the future of the digital economy as it is very important with what's happening today from advanced. So at the University of Tokyo International University, I am handling cybersecurity and big data applications. I am handling more about the industrial applications and how we can move further with economic applications, and at the same time maintaining the privacy of the data and having security of the application in general way. I am very glad these invitations. I will talk about the digital economy in general way. I will mention some important studies And I hope that you will search and see those articles, and so that we can, so everyone can actually benefit from those articles and those research. And I will be very glad if there is some beneficial and interactive communication in this case. So as a general way, we want to first to establish the digital economy. So the digital economy is actually growing fast, especially with the development of the countries in digital way. Yet the meaning and the matrix of the digital economy is actually always having limited and divergent in this case. So that I want to present a clear aspect of the digital economy so that I can go through today's presentation. So in this case, the Economic Commission has presented the strategy that actually based on 3 pillars in this case. The first one is that the digital economy should actually rely on the technology that works with the people. It is a social economy that needs to deal with a digital economy. The second thing is actually we need to have a fair and competitive digital economy. We cannot actually have one single digital economy that will actually manage everything. The third one is actually an open and democratic society that can actually have interaction with digital economy. This is the main thing that we actually are relying way with digital economy so that we can have maybe more successful perspective from that, okay? So going to the digital economy, we need to identify, just one second. So we need to identify some key enablers that give us what is important in digital economy. So the first point that we need to mention is digital strategy regulations inside the country and inside the environment that we need. We need to establish the regulations that push the digital economy in the right way. Of course, we need to respect our traditional, we need to respect our culture, we need to understand also how it can fit with the financial Islamic world. It's super important. There is actually some important research going in this case, and I am actually have a lot of research paper on that. We can discuss that later. The second thing is actually we need to build digital infrastructure so that we can move further with digital economy. Now, the digital infrastructure itself can be with different infrastructure, physical and software. So we need to build that in order to have all of that. And the most important thing in my perspective and my point of view is having the right data. If we have the data, we will have successful economy, digital economy applications and successful actually work in this case. And the last thing, we should have actually what we call a digital skills, which means that we have to establish some high skills people that can manage the digital economy. And from my point of view, I suppose that most of the countries now has really well-skilled people and well-educated people that know how they treat the data and how they can actually process the data in order to extract the data and work on it for digital purposes. And this is important. So the applications that we can have are actually many, including, for example, the fintech, financial technologies that will work in directly in us with the respect of digital economy. And this is important that we need to deal with that. There are some important things, like, for example, we need to think about digital governance. Okay, this is to deal and facilitate human being inside the country. We need also to have more about more cloud applications. We need to have more cloud computations, and those actually we need to rely on them in order to have more successful digital economy applications. Now, in order to have those, what we want, we need to have the technology that give us all of what we want from digital economy, including, for example, fast networking, the servers of the cloud. We need to establish good Internet of Things networking. We need to have more advanced artificial intelligence and with machine learning techniques. that is actually integrated with our environment, because one of the problems that we have is actually that the artificial intelligence is actually global. But if we go, for example, in the case of Indonesia or, for example, Japan, every country has its own data and has its own actually liberty. In this case, we need to manage the artificial intelligence with their data and deliver the occurrence of the model of the machine learnings that predict or do the classification in the right way without any error, so that we eliminate the problem. The most important thing is actually having big data analytics. In this case, we need to use the data that we are going to use successfully and efficiently in this case. Since most of the countries now are starting to collect the data in order to use them, big data analytics will be actually a very good example of how we can move further with digital economy. And of course, there is some discussion about the virtual reality and so on. It is very important too. And of course, cybersecurity. When we are talking about the digital economy, one of the main problems that we have right now is how we can secure this data, okay? And how we can secure the digital infrastructure, including, for example, the authentication between two people and the authorization, and even the application that you will release in the digital economy, how it will not affect your actually society and how it will respect the applications already existing before coming. So those are actually mentioned in the last slide, which are the ELC, ethical and legal and social impact from digital economy. And with that, I want to this very good story about the digital economy and how it is being successful. You can see, for example, the Society 5.0. Society 5.0 is actually Japanese framework that wants to improve the economic growth and the resolution of the social challenge within the cyber physical systems, so that it will help the human being to interact with technology and make life more smart. So if you think about that, it is making the use of the data collecting from the user and give him back the benefits of collecting his data in order to improve his life. This is general way. So this is what we are actually trying to do in general way with Society 5.0. And the most important thing is you can see there are many applications you can think about, including, for example, healthcare. We can collect data from the users and we treat those data in order to process, to do some analysis and do some predictions, like if someone is sick or something like that, and return to him directly with his use case or his actually, if he's sick or he's good or what he actually needs to do. And this is the real world applications that we need to do in a real and digital economy from industrial applications point of view. Of course, there are a lot of points in this case and a lot of perspectives. You have to think about that, especially how we can integrate those technology inside our world. But from a general point of view, you can actually understand that the structure itself, it's not actually very complicated, especially if you have the infrastructure and the skills of the people that you can do that. When we talk, for example, about what is the main issue that we are having in digital economy in order to realize the 5.0 application as an example or framework, we found out that the data is actually the most challenging thing that we found, because the data itself is a problem to collect it and how we can process it. It's actually easy, but collecting the data itself and having the data is the most challenging thing that we found. Because other thing, it is consequences of what you have already from systems and what you have from machine learning or artificial intelligence and so on. With that, I would like to go specifically to talk about digital economy as a definition. So in the start of the definition of digital economy was a little bit vast. It was actually starting point from digitalization of the techniques in the start. So you can see it has been said that it is a good or a service that whose development, production, and sale, and of course that open the digital technology. So it was very vast, and there is no restrict definitions about the digital economy. Now, if you go, for example, to the recent conference of the G20 in 2018, it started to be very, very strict about what is digital economy in order to have the work of that. So digital economy is the characteristic of the connectivity between the user and between the device. Now it's become more clear about how we can implement the digital economy. It was starting to have clear vision about how we can realize the digital economy. It sees actually the connectivity between the user and the devices. And that was actually very good definitions. Now into the G20 of in 2020, so we have more clear, more direct definition about the digital economy. It is actually now all the economic activities aligned and significantly enhanced by the user of the digital input, including the digital technologies and digital infrastructure and digital services and data. So we have now the all component of the digital economy in order to realize full practical digital economy. So we already established that we need digital technology, we need digital infrastructure, we need the services, and the most important thing, we need the data. Based on the data, we can actually have the services, we can establish it, actually the infrastructure that we need, and this, of course, the other technology that we may have. In order to understand more about the digital economy in our today progress, it is highly related to digital society. So digital society is like the general aim that we want, and digital economy is how it will push the digital society. So in this case, we said that there is measure of the digital economy that will actually manage the digital economy in general way, including, for example, what is the core of it, the economic activities and the productivity in this case, the know of the digital economy itself, okay, and the broad of the economic project, and finally, which is the goal in my understanding is the digital society. We want actually to make society more smart with technology and making everything more enhanced. So let's now talk about how big is actually the digital economy. We talked about the main part of the digital economy and about the definitions. We talked about the main component of the digital economy. But is it really big for now? Is it actually something that we can call it big? For now, it is actually, you can find it at time. And you will be surprised, for example, in the last of 10 years, it has been jumped from 7% as an average of the annual growth of the United States from 2016. And this was actually huge because the growth of the economic in general will be from 1% to 2%. But saying, for example, 7%, it is actually a very good percentage of progressing. So the digital economy is actually very big, and we expect during the next 10 years, it will be more than half of the entire economy. It will be based on the digital economy specifically. And this is based on the statistic of the Bureau of Economic Analysis from the government of USA. Of course, another perspective that you can think about is, for example, if the digital economy can actually enhance the life of the people by making more jobs. The jobs actually are creating more based on digital economy. And one important you can find, for example, what is how much the worker there is working, paying compared to other different, in this case, salaries. So in digital economy, they are actually getting paid and they are getting more attention, better than other field in this case. So let's talk now about what are, as I mentioned, the main components of the digital economy. So in this case, there are some. There is an American statistician who actually identified three key components of the digital economy. The first one is actually the e-business. It's conduct the business activities through the use of the electronic systems. After that, you can see, for example, this is very important. And after that, you can see that the digital, the electronic business push based on the infrastructure that you have. This refers to the electronic system that the business itself is conduct with their operator. This includes, for example, the hardware. This includes the software, the network that you have, and where you are storing your data, as I mentioned. So the servers and the data and other things. And of course, the goal is to actually have a result of that. We just don't want just to have the data, but we want to have e-commerce. We want to buy and we want to sell the business and the service that we have. So those actually that we need to focus when we are building our digital economy in, of course, general way. So what are the characteristics of economy success? So the first thing that you should understand that digital economy is actually driven by the internet. It works over the internet. You cannot actually have digital economy without internet. It is global, where everyone in any place in your country or internationally, he can access the service itself, and this is important. It is always on. You can have the availability of the service always. If you want, for example, to access to the website or the application, it is always available for your case. If you have an application in your smartphone, it is always on. It is always working with you. It is actually, there is face-to-face in this case. The technology is fasting, and if you want something, the efficiency of that, it will be immediately in your computer on your smartphone. So there is actually fast in this case, efficient, compared to the traditional economy, as I mentioned. The most important thing, I always repeat that because I found it very interesting. You cannot have digital economy without the data. The data is actually what is driving the digital economy in a general way. So it is data driven, okay? And the last thing, the digital economy more interesting is that we have more competitive in this case. So the digital economy is highly actually competitive because a lot of applications makes better applications and make better services to the user. And this is what we are relying on. There are different applications. Every application will have into consideration some aspect. The user will actually choose the better one. This means the company should actually deliver good services or better services in order to gain the trust of the user. And with that, you can push the further with more applications, as I mentioned. So what's now the digital economy can provide? So digital can provide more business. It can provide more customers, more actually works that we can have. And of course, so you can have, for example, the digital economy can have business to become more efficient, and we will have more jobs that will work on it, and we will have more innovations based on that. Of course, digital economy will have less cost, as I mentioned, because you will rely totally on the internet, so you will have less cost comparing to the traditional economy, as I mentioned. So the future of the economic digital economy. So from that, I want to give very good, very general structure in this case. We want actually to use the artificial intelligence in our digital economy to improve the services that we have and have more efficient services. We want to use more cloud computing in order to make the availability of the applications more. We want to have more efficient networking so that we can deliver the services without any problems. And those actually will make the digital economy more smart. We call that smart economy in general way, and this can have by, for example, smart cities and having, for example, smart homes. Those will lead and push those technology further, as I mentioned. Another example about that is actually having the technology of blockchain as an example. An example about that, instead of having your actually user and password, it will change with more security policies based on the private and the public keys that will actually give you the access to your server or service that you want, and it will actually rely on the smart contract that you will sign in order to push the service and start working directly. Of course, this is actually, until now, there is few on this decentralization of digital economy, and we think it is actually the future of the digital economy right now. Ali, for example, has very successful story about the decentralization of digital economy in this case. So what about, to conclude today's presentations, I want just to mention some very important issues that we are having. So the first important thing that we are having is actually the security of the data that we have. Since the data is the most important thing and is what drives the digital economy, we need actually to secure this data, and we need actually to put some effort in to withstand against the hackers and against the attacks that can actually damage our infrastructure, and this is very important. The second thing that a lot of people actually having issue right now is the privacy. When we are talking about the digital economy, we will use the data, and if we are using the data, those data can actually refer to the people by their personality or their, for example, gender, and this is a privacy issue that we want to prevent. As a business collect more data about their customers, the business or, for example, the companies can actually misuse this data and identify people, for example, and we have a lot of incidents as the reference of that. And finally, the most important thing is actually cybercrime. Cybercrime actually can be extension from the security and privacy issues, because now the cybercrime is increasing because of the use of technologies that lead to increase of the cyber crime in this case. All of those actually are very important components on identifying some ethical issues that we are dealing with digital economy and legal issues that can arise from that. An example about the legal issues is actually the copyright of the applications and the data that you are having. The second thing, for example, another example about the ethical is actually whether those applications are actually having some ethical or moral issues we need to deal with. Especially in our future, we need to identify and eliminate all of ethical concern in this case. And from my perspective, in identifying what is ethical issues in the development countries. However, we have already ethics well written, and we don't really rely on our understanding. We already identify what is ethical in order to now and establish what is the ethical issues that we have or not. Other, for example, if you go to other countries or other, until now they still have this. Of course, there are some, as I mentioned, illegal problems. There is social impact of that. If you have an applications and you are starting working with the users or people, there is some social impact on them. You can actually, for example, change their opinion about something. Those applications or the digital economy itself, it can push people actually their thoughts, behavior, and with that we need to be very careful about what we want from that. And this is very important to investigate. And I highly advise the economic Islamic in the world to actually to investigate this topic specifically, to give us more research on that, so that we can learn from them. Unfortunately, I am ignorant about the Islamic financial technologies, but I hope that that we will read in the future more about this point. With that, I finished everything, and thank you very much for taking time to hear me.
Tes. Thank you very much, Dr. Rafiq Hamzah, for the discussion about digital economy. Then I think I could conclude that digital economy is very promising in the future, because now everything is based on the internet. So internet will support digital economy very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, two speakers already delivered their material. Then now we go on to the discussion section. If you have question, then you may ask both to the Prof. Mansur or to Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. Please, for the officer, for the microphone, yeah. Then please raise your hand, then mention your name and where are you from, and directly to the question. Okay. Okay. Yes, Bapak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Due to my poor English, please allow me to deliver my question in Indonesian language. My first question goes to Prof. Mansur, and my second question goes to Pak Rafiq. Prof. Mansur tadi di bagian terakhir sudah menyebutkan tentang bagaimana potensi atau kemungkinan atau peluang dari saya ingin lebih fokus ke Islamic Social Finance, Prof. Mansur, karena di bagian terakhir tadi ada 3 karakteristik ya yang bisa mendukung peran katakanlah Islamic Finance ya, karena terbagi 2 ya, ada commercial finance, Islamic commercial and social finance ya. Tadi yang pertama, kalau untuk Islamic social finance itu kan punya 3 karakteristik tadi yang disebutkan di bagian terakhir. As you mentioned it in the last of your presentation, that Islamic social finance has not only the system but also the function, especially the social function, and also the integration of Sharia compliance and inclusivity, and also has the qualified human capital embedded in values. My question for you is, what Islamic social finance can contribute to the recovery of world economic in post-pandemic era? And my second question also is the same as my first question, but it's very specific in related to the digital economy. What's the digital economy can contribute or function to the recovery of the world economic in post-pandemic? In special reference related to the social impact of the digital economy. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bapak, what is your name, Bapak?
My name is Budi Sudrajat. I come from UIN Banten.
UIN Banten, okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Pak Budi Sudrajat. Then, Prof. Mansur, would you please to answer the question? Yeah. About what Islamic social finance can contribute to the recovery of post-pandemic era.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question that has been asked. So Alan, I think you have good English. In fact, when you ask, I can understand clearly. Even the pronunciation, I can understand clearly. But then it's okay. Now, if we look at, right, in terms of Islamic finance, right, Islamic social finance has been there before long time of the modern Islamic banking. It has been there before, like Awqaf institutions, as well as zakat. But then zakat, in many different places, the institution that organize zakat may be under the government, and sometimes it's not under the government, right? Because I was born in southern Thailand, where at that time we don't have zakat institution, but really informal, that you on your own go and try to search someone else who are in need and give zakat, right? So that long before, but do not know now. But in Malaysia they have institutions under the state governments collecting zakat and distribute zakat, right? So has been there for a long time. I think the functions of these institutions are quite clear, because when we have crisis, right, the number of people, asnaf, will be increasing. For sure will be increasing, right? And the crisis also have thrown SME, right, small and medium enterprises, into financial difficulties, right? As well as some of them have to close as a result, right? And then coming up with the pandemic and try to connect a little bit with digital economy. The pandemic also have accelerated digitalizations, right? Maybe we can say that a positive impact, but have accelerated digitalizations, which the impact to the SME or to the B40 would be more in the sense that SME may not be ready for digital economy. So these are many different aspects, right, in terms of the impact of the pandemic, as well as all the shocks or crisis yang berlaku, right, will have impact on the small, medium enterprises, the poor, right, and then the need of a new skill set for the future, right? Because if you look at Industrial Revolution 4.0, right, we have discussed a lot in terms of human being or human capital can be replaced by basically machines and so on, right? Accountant, for example, in the future may not be needed because you have all these systems there. You have AI, you have machine learning, you have a lot of things coming up. So these are a lot of things that can basically replace human being, right? Now, the commercial side of the finance may not be able to do much, right? And the government finance itself may have constraints, right? Because the government finance side basically have constraints in terms of the spending that they made, because their spending depends on revenue they have collected, and revenue depends on economic activities, right? So they will have a constraint in the context of even the fiscal spending and so on. The return, or without the paying back of the capital, you just transfer for people to survive, right? So in that context, you look at, we need reskilling of the individual, upskilling of the individual, retraining of the SMEs. All those things require funding, which the government itself may not have sufficient fund, right? So that's why the social finance is very important, right? The Awqaf institutions. But the only thing that we need to look at here, where our scholars must be very dynamic little bit, right? Because sometimes our scholars, not to criticize them, but then for the right reason, they tend to refer back to the past text, right? Without looking at the new thing that happens now, right? But I see that Indonesia is more dynamic than Malaysia in this context. For Malaysian case, we look at the far back, if not if the past scholars said no, we tend to say no, but we are not looking at the need. So what we need to make Islamic social finance to be really, really effective, basically to look at the areas that Islamic finance can cover, right? Because in your case, for example, zakat institutions can finance real activities that benefit the poor without having to give directly to the asnaf. I think I heard one of the project that has been done by Basnas, for example, in the context of the power generator in the rural areas that basically activate economic activities. But in Malaysia, it's not yet. Right? Zakat is only for asnaf. So it's not yet directed to the productive side. Right? So which means that the future scholars must be basically more dynamic in terms of looking at the needs of the situation that we are in right now, right? So reskilling, upskilling, there are a lot of things that basically Islamic social finance can do. And the good reasons for us in Islam is that unlike in the conventional side, they have social finance too, in terms of charity and so on. But in our side, our social finance that we have done are embedded, are tied into Islamic institutions, which means we are driven by Islam, right? And by the realizations that in every one of us, in every wealth that we have here, one portion that we have doesn't belong to us, right? One portion is belong to society, and that one, the social part that we must be activated. So I see a lot of contributions. And in fact, I would see that Islamic social finance would be more important than Sharia banking or more important than the capital market in terms of leveling ataupun closing the gap of income distributions, as well as reduce the incidence of poverty. Because this one is more important. I hope I answer a little bit of what you have asked.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Mansur. Then for Dr. Rafiq Hamzah, the same question from Pak Budi from UIN Banten. That is, what is digital economy can contribute to the recovery of post-pandemic? Please, Dr. Rafiq Hamzah.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. This is actually a very good question that will illustrate the importance of digital economy and it's related to the society. The epidemic actually changed the way of people, how they think and how they react in daily life. So we know for a fact that technology plays an important role on society today. It has a positive and negative effect on the world itself. And it has, of course, the impact daily on their lives. So we can say that the epidemic actually improved the digital economy further by pushing everything to go through the internet instead of having the traditional economy. And I suppose it happens everywhere during the epidemic. But somehow we have some social impact from that. Now everything is pushing to be more digital, including the economic and business and other things. We have some serious impact that we need to deal with that, including, for example, how people are interacting with each other and how they are actually the business in digital world and how they are actually having their influence from that. You can, if you are having everything digital, the people themselves, they can have their own actually perspective or their thoughts in negative way. The technology can actually have some bias influence on the people, and this is very dangerous. And this is why we said investigating the social impact on our society is very important. Because until now, I can see my, actually, for example, my opinion, you can see your opinion, but there is few that are the main social impact on that. We know for a fact, based on the current research, there are some social impact from the epidemic that actually pushed forward the implementation and deployment of the digital economy business and there are now a lot of applications, and we can see that in our daily lives. But what are the impacts of that on our society, and especially that every country has its own culture? We need to do some research on that, and now, for fact, what are actually the impact for that in our society or our culture? Now, some impact that I can mention, for example, you can change your opinion about a specific political thing. It can change your opinion about the economic itself. It can actually improve how you are doing your business. It can actually destroy how you are doing your business. So from my perspective, the social impact from the digital economy has been rising more, especially with the epidemic. But the impact specifically, it is diverse from country to another, and unfortunately, I don't have scientific proof of what are the consequences of that for now. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. Okay, I hope that those two answers can answer your question, Pak Budi. Yeah. Then for the next question, I received two messages. Yeah. The first is for Prof. Mansur. What is the uniqueness of Islamic financial in Malaysia? Yeah. What is the uniqueness of Islamic financial in Malaysia? Okay. And for Dr. Rafiq Hamzah, in digital economy issue in Indonesia is also digital inclusion, because Indonesia have many rural areas. What are the strategies to solve this issue, maybe from academician perspective? Yeah, that is the question for Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. For Prof. Mansur, yeah, you may answer the question. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for this. The question, what is the uniqueness of Islamic finance in Malaysia? Right? It seems easy in terms of the question, but difficult to answer, right? Because to identify uniqueness, it's not that easy. How different Islamic finance in Malaysia as compared to many other regions, right? Now, if I want to point out one of the uniqueness, it's not in terms of the operations, it's not in terms of the type that we have, it's not in terms of the size that we have, because many other countries also have bigger size than us. In Malaysia, penetration 30% roughly. In other nations like Saudi, more than 50%, and Bangladesh is fast moving in terms of toward being systematically important, right? But then, if I want to emphasize the uniqueness, is in terms of the supervisions of Islamic banking and Islamic finance, where at present we have a framework that we term it as value-based intermediations and value-based takaful for Islamic finance. Right? Now, the value-based intermediations or value-based takaful for Islamic finance is just the other name that we try to incorporate the fact that when banks or takafuls or Islamic insurance perform the functions, right, bank intermediating, right, give financings, provide non-financial services, and the same thing takaful, provide protection and so on, in the performance of that functions, it must create positive value to society, right? So that's one of the things that I would say uniqueness. And then we come up with basically promoted by Central Bank of Malaysia, and part of research also Aicieb involved in that research. We come up with a scorecard to monitor that value-based intermediations, right? For very simple reasons, right? If we ask ourselves, should Islamic banking finance the firms that are involved in oil and gas industry? Right? We look at, well, quite straightforward, but oil and gas industry is basically harmful to the environment. So that E part of the ESG may be violated. Right? Should Islamic finance basically provide financing to the firms that are known to be violating human rights in the context of labor relations, especially when it comes to immigrant workers, right? So we have the case in Malaysia, for example, where the immigrant workers from, I think, Bangladesh were whistleblowers, right? And under the Globe companies, Top Glove, Supermax, Koshan, and many others, that reported to international organizations, and the product has been stopped to be exported to the United States, stopped by the United States Customs. So should Islamic finance that firm that have that type of activities or that type of violations? So we keep track having that balanced scorecard because we think that very important moving forward, that integration should be forthcoming, right? And now we are actively involved with basically looking at the maqasid of Islamic finance, try to look from the perspective of SDG. Now, we are not using SDG to evaluate Islamic finance. We use Islamic finance to evaluate SDG and try to build up the framework so that Islamic finance will have better impact. If you want to say that uniqueness in the context of Malaysia. Other things more or less the same in any other nations. But our focus on that value-based intimidations, value-based takaful would be something that we would like to put forward from Malaysian perspective, right? Because we have to monitor the activities and so on. Now, one thing that I should emphasize here in the context of Islamic finance, right? We would like to avoid or try to monitor the firms or the bank that use Islam for their own benefits. Sometimes we call it as whitewashing or greenwashing, right? So we try to avoid that part too. Because this one is really important because sometimes people go for green sukuk, people go for sukuk financing, people go for this, not because they want to conform to Sharia principle, but because they don't have other alternative. So they want to look at if they are Islamic so that they can get fund. That one very important too, that we try to come up with a framework to reduce that type of greenwashing or whitewashing. So that, if I want to emphasize that uniqueness. And other part, I would say, is more or less the same. The way that we travel is the same way as Indonesia is traveling now. You have more and more Islamic bank. We also have more and more Islamic bank. You have spin-off, we have spin-off before, right? We allow mergers, you also have mergers and so on. So more or less the same in the context of the way the industry have evolved. But then what are insight maybe something that we can learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mansur. And then for Dr. Rafiq Hamzah.
Can you repeat your question?
Okay.
The question was about the social impact bias on Malaysia. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. In digital economy issue in Indonesia is also digital inclusion because Indonesia have many rural areas. What are the strategies to solve this issue, maybe from academician perspective?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we actually now, for fact, alhamdulillah, we are living in Islamic society. We have our already rules that indicate how we can behave with that change and that actually social impact on us. So we cannot actually drive by that kind of change. However, we need to deal with the general between the people, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And the lot of that came especially in cybersecurity, in terms of security policies that affect the change in order to limit the change of those applications. Another thing that we can do in technical way is actually enforce the applications or the services that we have to use our country database and enforce them to deliver the report on the impact before start working directly in our society. So with that, we can actually have pre-knowledge about some of the problems that we can find on society. One important thing that everyone does in this area is actually to update their services using the artificial their training data to deliver the services using the set from the country specifically. For example, I am from Japan now, and I have some services that I will deliver in Indonesia. Before delivering it, I actually need to update my model to accept and to have some feature from the society, the Indonesian feature, and so on, so that the application actually will not deliver some bias impact on the society. And this is important to do. The second thing, as I mentioned, security policies that can actually the bias of the society in applications in that case. This will be integrated in cybersecurity framework that you have inside the organization or inside the government or inside even the city itself. So with that, I think most of the solutions currently to deal with that is awareness, to aware the people about the impact of the use digitally use the most reliable applications that you are having, and of course to determine which application is more trust for your society. Thank you very much for your question.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the discussion session for the international forum is enough. Thank you very much, Professor Mansur Ibrahim, for your valuable insight about the inclusive economic, and also for Dr. Rafiq Hamzah for digital economy. Then I hope that we can have a further discuss after this, Professor and Dr. Rafiq Hamzah. I hope I can see you in the near future. Okay, thank you very much for both of you. Then for the audience, please give applause to our speakers. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to continue to our second session, that is Indonesian Forum. And I would like to invite our speakers to come up to the stage. The first is Professor Nurul Indarti, PhD. Okay, because Ibu Nurul is the only woman, so I will give the bigger chair, in the middle. Okay, please, Ibu. So we have to cover, right here, Ibu. We have to cover and guard Ibu Prof. Nurul. Then the second speaker, Bapak Bayu Arifianto, PhD. Oke, monggo Ibu. Bapak, monggo di tengah, Pak. Then the last is Bapak Imam Hidayat Sunarto. Monggo Bapak. Okay, we will go directly. Nurul Indarti is the head of management department of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta. Then for the educational background, she held her bachelor from Faculty of Economics, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Jogja. And then that is in 98 ya Bu ya. Okay. And then at 2000, diploma from Telemark University College, Norway. This is about The subject is Norwegian language and civilization. Ibu. And then 2002, Civil Yes, Civil Econom. Yeah, this is Norwegian language. Yeah, from Faculty of Economics and Social Sciences, Agder University College, Norway. And then she holds 2 master, yeah, Ibu. 2 different master, yeah. Then 2003 from Master Department of Strategy and Management from Norwegian School of Economic and Business. And the last, 2010, PhD from Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Groningen, Netherlands. Okay, Ibu Nurul, you may, you may from while sitting or from podium, or maybe you want to go around behind, to the audience. Yeah, it's you have 25 minutes, Ibu Nurul. Thank you very much.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain, amma ba'du. The panitia. This is Indonesian English Forum, yeah. So let me check the PPT. Bapak Ibu, it's really pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for UIN Salatiga, and congratulates for the new status to be the Universitas Islam Negeri Salatiga, just born, yeah. Hopefully they will becoming better future for UIN Salatiga. I would like to share my point of view in terms of small medium enterprises experience, how they try to recover from the pandemic, with the title Small Medium Enterprises Resilience and its Strategy, Resilience, Lesson Learned from Indonesians SMEs during the pandemic. The next slide, please. My background is not from the Islamic finance. It is not from the Islamic institutions. And I'm from Department of Management. I do research a lot for small, medium enterprises. So I would like to share my little bit experience with Bapak Ibu semua and the international forum here about how the SMEs in Indonesia, they tried to recover from the pandemic. This is my background, and I think one thing that may be interesting for you, I have also a YouTube channel, just like the YouTuber, but this is only dedicated for my students because I was experienced for the COVID, so I was hospitalized for about 10 days. So after the COVID, Bapak Ibu, the energy, the endurance are really problem. So I create the YouTube for the students. So could you please go to the next slide? This is my agenda. I'm going to talk about the SME. I think the majority of us knows about our Indonesian SMEs. I would like to emphasize few points that are really important to discuss, especially about the main problem related to human resource aspect. The next is about how our Indonesian SMEs during the pandemic. I used 2 different reports from the National Agency Planning, Bappenas, and my initial report as well, related to the supply chain management for the pandemic. And then I would like to share my perspective, what strategy the SMEs may do or already did in terms of pandemic and how they recover and how they try to be resilient. Hopefully it will be enough for 25 minutes. Could you please go to the next slide? SMEs in Indonesia. What the main characteristics? our SMEs contribute to the workplace. They contribute to 64 millions of the total workplace, because there are 60 millions of small medium enterprises, and the majority of them is actually self-employed. So they are working only one people, only herself or himself. They do not have the staff to help them. So in terms of the GDP, they contribute to 61%, and they contribute to the employment in the 2018 almost 100%, 97%, and also they contribute to the export, even though less than 15%, but they, some of the SMEs, medium size of the companies, they do export and they contribute 40.7%. The main sector of SMEs are agriculture, plantations, processing industries. I think there are many as well in Salatiga, yeah, in central of Java. Moment. I think better I use my my HP. Yeah, sometimes it's not stable. Okay, other sectors are food, wholesaler, retail, and also transportations and warehousing. So what are the main characteristics that they have, especially before the pandemic? Please. Yeah. The majority, 98%, they are in the form of small, medium enterprises, particularly micro. The ultra micro or the micro, meaning they do not have the additional staff to help. And 93%, they do not have the legal business entity. They tend to be informal, and then they do not use the computer for supporting their business, 93%. And also 90%, they did not use the internet. They do not have computer, they do not use the internet. This is the conditions before the pandemic. And then they do not have partnership. They tend to be working alone. Yeah. And 88% SME, they do not get or didn't apply for the credits. This is interesting. In the morning, we are discussing about the financial institution, the Islamic financial institutions. In fact, the majority of our SMEs, they do not use the additional support from the financial institutions. I did some research in terms of that. When I interview the owner, I asked, why you do not dealing with the credits? The first thing, maybe they do not want to make the business more complicated. That one thing. Another one, maybe the perspective of religions. Some religions, especially Islam, they teach us, these religions teach us not to use additional money from the bank because they have the interest. So this may be a reasons why not many Indonesian small medium enterprises get the credits. Many of our Indonesian SMEs, they are not bankable. So that's why they are not dealing with the banking or getting credits. So this is the main characteristic, Bapak Ibu. Before the pandemic hit Yogyakarta, hit Indonesia in March 2020. So before the pandemic, there is one main problem related to human resource that I would like to emphasize and to share with Bapak Ibu. The first internal aspect of human resource management. I would emphasize three aspects. The first one is the mindset of owner, manager of SMEs. Many SMEs owner, they have the feeling of enough. This is good. Yeah. I think this is part of our religions. We have to be thankful for everything that the gods give to us. So this is implies in the context of the perceptions, how the owner perceive what they can earn from the business. This is one good thing. But in the context of growing the business, this can be problematic. The feeling of enough means that gampang merasa cukup ya, Bapak Ibu. So when I talk to the owner, why they want to go, why you don't to expand the business? And then he said, or she said, Bu Nurul, my money that I got from this business is enough to support my children to be graduated from the university. So I don't need to go bigger. So the feeling of enough, I don't think so we can find in the business literature, the international business literature. So religions teach us how to be satisfied with any conditions. But in respect to business, this is kind of problem. Yeah. Because some owners, they don't want to go bigger. They don't want to do the market expansions because of this kind of feeling. Avoiding complexity and risk. So many owners, they don't want to go bigger because they don't want to get more risk. The business become more complex, and maybe there is always uncertainty if they expand the market, either succeed or failed. So this is kind of mindset that we have for the owner. The second one is the professionalism. As Bapak Ibu knows, that the majority of type of small medium enterprises is the micro. This is informal sector, household business. So the nature is normally family-owned business. We know that family-owned business, they are not, in general, professional, because this is about the partnership between the wife and the husband, between the parents and the kids. So the discussion sometimes is about the familyness. Yeah. So that's really related to the, the conflict. So if they have tensions or conflict in the family, they really hits the growth of the business. So the professionalism is an issue for the human resource management, the internal perspective. Another one is the managerial competence. The majority of them, especially the owner, they have problem with the marketing. They only can produce the products, but they do not know how to sell the product. So this is not match between the production side and the marketing side. And another one is the use of technology. They do not really use the high technology. We back to the main characteristic of the SME, they do not even have the computer. They do not have, they do not use the internet. So the simple technology that they may use, or maybe only hand productions, yeah, traditional hand productions. So this can be a problem, the managerial competence. I would like to see from the external perspective of the human resource management problem, that is from the stakeholders. There are many policies from the governments. As far as I know, there are 17 kementerian lembaga, and there are some state-owned businesses that they also have the policies to empower the small, medium enterprises. Are they friendly enough? I think in the era of Jokowi, Pak Jokowi already, restructure some policies to be more friendly for the SMEs. limited assistance, especially in terms of the dinas. There are many dinas in every region in Indonesia. They only have very few staff to support the small medium enterprises. So that can be a problem. Another problem is synergies of the empowerment program for the small medium enterprises. In my study, I found that there are many policies provided by the governments, but maybe there is indications of overlapping. Yeah? Because one KL, for instance, another KLs, they have their own KPI to be reported, to be succeed. So that's, this is kind of, competing between or among the KLs, the Kementerian Lembaga. And another one is many small medium enterprises empowerment, they focus on startup business. If you look at the growth or the business process of the SMEs, every stage is important. Yeah? Not only the starting point, but also the growing and also try to sustain. Yeah? So this can be also an issue. The many SMEs empowerment program, they are focusing on startup and one size fit all approach. So based on my little experience dealing with the government, with the Bapanas a long time ago, I studied that many SME empowerment program, they use the one size fit all, meaning that they provide many training for the SME to go to international. So they provide the export training, even though some or few of SMEs, they do not really need the export market, because they say, Bu Nurul, we don't need to do international market because our main market is Indonesian market. We have 20 million people live in Indonesia, and they are our market. So why we go to do export? We don't need to do export. So this can be an issue. Another one, which is really important for us, as this is Bapak Ibu dari UIN ya, seluruh Indonesia, and the deans, vice deans, we have problem with the paradigm of how to teach entrepreneurship. Yeah, because I'm entrepreneurship lecturer, so when I teach my students to start a business, they may have the intentions to do the business in the process of lecturing, but at the end of the sessions, they have to, have the fight situation with the parents, because the parents ask them to go to BUMN, big companies, yeah, joining Bank Indonesia. So this is kind of conflicting paradigm, yeah, in terms of the educations, how we empower the students to be more independent after they graduate. So this is some human resource problem that our Indonesian SMEs have. The next, okay. The next, I would like to share about what happened when SMEs, when we have the pandemic situations. Yeah, I quote the informations from the research from National Development Planning Agency 2020. He did a survey for more than 2,500 small medium enterprises in Indonesia, and the impact that they found, there is financial impact and non-financial impact. So the pandemic, I think Bapak Ibu already knows about this impact, yeah? The non-financial impact, the majority in terms of micro, small, medium, they have problem with decreasing demand. Yeah, the social distancing, PPKM, limited access among the regions really hampers the situations. Yeah, the demand is decreased significantly. So that is also reported by any type of SMEs, any type of business, for micro, small, and medium. It is followed by difficulties in getting raw materials. So not only decreasing demand from the market point of view, the demand point of view, but also the supply side point of view. The next impact is financial impact. The financial impact, the biggest portions is they have problem with the salaries. Yeah. So I think there are many also employees from this kind of businesses. They are not working anymore because the companies are suffering in terms of the salaries. And another impact in terms of the financial impact is other expenses. They have problem with the with other financial expenses as well. In addition to financial impact, specifically they have problem with the revenue impact. So decreased revenue based on size. In terms of the micro, small, medium enterprises, they also have problem with the decreases revenue. So all type of businesses, they are really struggling with the pandemic. And the percentage of decreased revenue, it is higher, about 60 to 80% that happens to the medium size of the business. So the higher the size, the more, the bigger the size of the business, the bigger the percentage of the decreased revenue. Yeah. So how they did during the pandemic? This one, I used the term innovations. Innovations, from the perspective of theoretical point of view, it is the ability of an organization to respond changes. So how the organizations see the changes as the opportunity and they make some response on it. Yeah. So how SMEs react? There are many innovations actually they already did. The first, in terms of the productions, how they make the innovations for productions point of view. The majority of them in terms of small, micro, small, and medium size of the business, they adjust the operational hours. So when before the pandemic, they do, or they set the operational hours like 8 hours a day. So during the pandemic, they set maybe half day. So they're still working, but they make the adjustments in terms of the operational hours. Another changes is the business focus. It's very fast, okay. The next innovation is human resource. How they did, they make the layoff, and some of them, they also did nothing. So in terms of the marketing, I think Bapak Ibu already knows, yeah, there are many companies, they're selling product online. Yeah, this is the majority of the innovation strategy that they did. The financial aspect, what they did, they reduced utility costs. They tried to be more efficient in terms of using the electricity, gases, water, communications, and they also reduced the transportation costs. So this is some innovations that they did during the pandemic. I also have additional finding in terms of the study supply chains management performance of a small medium enterprises in food beverage sector in Indonesia. I found that the company who can achieve the increased revenue, they use raw materials which are produced by their own productions, or they use the local resources. Yeah. But for the SMEs who are dealing with the import, not from the local SMEs, they have the decreasing revenue. So this is also interesting. So in terms of the supply chain management, for the company, for the SMEs who are really flexible, they make adjustment to product compositions, they follow the market taste, so the revenue will be increased, or the revenue was increased. If the company, they do not adjust the product compositions, nor they do not follow the market taste, they are not flexible, and the revenue was decreased. So the SME resilience, 2 minutes ya Pak. Okay, this is the process when the SME is dealing with the pandemic. So before the pandemic, normally many small medium enterprises, they are dealing with the consolidations process. They are starting to do the internal consolidations, what they are going to produce. Then gradually they do the incremental changes, like as Bapak Ibu can see. But when the pandemic hits the SMEs, it is like radical change. So this process, how they are dealing with the pandemic situations, it is a dynamic process, it is an adaptive process. So the company, they can manage the consolidations between the internal consolidations and the external consolidations. So they are starting from the external consolidations and they adjust to internal consolidation. They can produce the internal incremental changes. They do some innovations that I already mentioned. So they can resilience, they can survive. So I provide, based on my research, the strategy, how to be resilient in the pandemic situations. Could you please go to the next slide? The key elements of SME's resilience is the entrepreneurial orientations. This is about the ability to be innovative. This is about how the owner of the SMEs can see the opportunity and they want to take the risk. So the ability to risk-taking, and then the proactive, how they respond to the changes. So this is combining with the entrepreneurial orientations. So for the SMEs who have the owners that have the high entrepreneurial orientations, they can survive. They can do innovations and they can be resilient. So this is the key elements. And the strategy, I divided into 4 different strategies. So could you please go to the next slide? When the entrepreneur orientations is low, yeah, so the proactiveness, they are not very proactive, they are not really able to take a risk, and they are not innovative enough. So the EO is low, and if the business, they are not really have the social contact, maybe like the company, they are using the digital market, they really have the limited contact here. So the defender strategy, they use the exploitative innovations, make them survive, make them resilient. But when the entrepreneur orientation is low, and their business is about the food and beverage business, the restaurant industry, hotel, homestay industry, when the contact social is high, if the entrepreneur orientation is low, they are really in the trouble. Some of them are collapsed. They may be using the reactor strategy, yeah. So if they want to survive, they have to be able to increase their entrepreneur orientations. So this is maybe the role of the university, the role of the government, how to empower the owner that have the low entrepreneur orientations to be more proactive, to be able to take a risk, and to be more innovative. And they do the prospector strategy. If they are able to combine and to consolidate the external changes and do the international process, they can do the organizational ambidexterity. So this is the strategy that I learned from the way our Indonesian SMEs did during the pandemic. So if they do the combinations of the entrepreneur orientations and they respond the environmental shock, yeah, depending on the type of the business, they can be more resilient. So I think Bapak Ibu, Mas Moderator, always watching me a lot. So I have to stop my talk. Thank you very much. Mohon maaf lahir batin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Indarti, Prof. Nurul Indarti, for SMES resilience and its strategy. Okay, next for the fourth presenter, Bapak Bayu Ari Fianto, PhD. Bapak Bayu, wow, this is banyak sekali, Pak. Current position is the first, Head of Islamic Economic Study Program, Universitas Airlangga Surabaya. Head of SDGs Center, Universitas Airlangga Surabaya. Head of Dashboard Team, Data Center, Universitas Airlangga Surabaya. And the last is Head of Islamic Microfinance Institution, Mitra Karya Airlangga Surabaya. Don't you feel tortured, Bapak, with this position? Ya, banyak sekali kepala-kepalanya. Okay. Then for the education, 2007, Pak Bayu finished his bachelor from Management Science, Faculty of Economic and Business, Brawijaya University. And 2009, he got his master from Business Administration, specialization in Islamic Banking and Finance, IIUM Malaysia. And the last, 2017, PhD from Lincoln University, New Zealand. And for this occasion, Bapak Bayu will deliver the material about the role of Islamic microfinance to accelerate business recovery in the post-pandemic era. Bapak Bayu, time is yours. Ya.
Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Moderator, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be invited in this forum, especially with all distinguished speakers, with Prof. Mansur as well, my lecturer during my time in the International Islamic University, and also with Prof. Nurul, Imam as well, and Mr. Hamzah Rafki. So my topic for today is the role of Islamic microfinance to accelerate business recovery in the post-pandemic era in the third annual International Conference on Islamic Economic and Business. So this is, I think, a STEAM forum with all Dean and Vice Dean from EIN, from UIN, all over Indonesia. Again, I congratulate also UIN Salatiga for being a university. Congratulations, Pak Rektor, Vice Rector, and Pak Dean. So I think I will continue the discussion that has been started by Prof. Mansur and our second speaker with Prof. Nurul as well, about the role of Islamic microfinance, especially to accelerate business recovery. Even this one is not the end of the pandemic. We are still in the pandemic, but now we consider as an endemic. So I would like to give as a post-pandemic era. So this is my outline. I will discuss about the overview of microfinance and Islamic microfinance, business recovery, sustainability, and collaboration between microfinance, especially with the startup industry. Next, please. Okay, as we know that the microfinance is the vehicle or institution, especially for those that have a limitation for financial access from formal financial institutions such as bank. So microfinance is quite flexible in general to provide a product and services suit with the needed of the people. And microfinance not only in Indonesia or in Asia country. Next slide, please. If we see the type of microfinance, some countries consider commercial bank, rural bank, and also cooperative as microfinance, especially in Asia. and some other countries also consider like NGO, private company also as microfinance. So there are many types of microfinance, Bapak Ibu, in the world. Then the government also have the ability to provide microfinance, like in China, for example, for the people. Next, please. If we see here from the map, we know that the microfinance in general, not only in Asia country, not only in Indonesia, we can see from here. Microfinance also we can find in the US, in the Africa, in the Europe, and in total, there are 140 million of members or those that receive finance, microfinance, microinstance, microcredit from the financial institution. And the total portfolio about more than $124 billion. So it's quite a huge number. Interestingly, more than 60%, about 65%, the members or the one that receive microfinance from rural areas. Jadi dari desa, Bapak Ibu. Jadi those that receive microfinance dominated by rural areas people. So they are located in rural, and this is the advantage of microfinance since they are flexible and they are not very rigid, not very sophisticated. They can enter the rural areas, and most of the recipients, 80% are women. So 80% of microfinance debtor are women, and in East Asia and Pacific, the total of portfolio, about $21.5 billion, and around 20 million of women receive financing or loan from microfinance in East Asia and Pacific. So we can see over here, for example, in the US, the microfinance not only providing microloan or microfinancing, but they are also delivering education, training, and various other services. For example, here is Aicieb in Texas. Right now is merged with Live One. They have a special platform for their client. So their client can download the simple template of business, the financial report, the balance sheets, so they can have a simple accounting process. And next is in Africa. There is also Kenya Women Finance Trust, which is their focus is on develop sustainable microfinance institution and giving opportunity for women receiving finance from them. So if we can see from their website in Kenya, they are also giving finance to ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. So it is easily to look at their website, their portfolio financing to clean water and sanitation, for example, related to SDGs number 6, or maybe to affordable and clean energy, SDGs number 7, or the financing to climate action, SDGs number 13. So this is an example of microfinance in all over the world. So there are microfinance that provide template for their clients. There is also microfinance that focus on ESG or SDGs, as our topic for today is circular economy. And the new model of circular economy based on UN is no one left behind. So this is the tagline, no one left behind, and related to G20, recover together, recover stronger. And in the Europe, here, for instance, there is also some movement to strengthen financial inclusion through digitalization. In Europe, they also have Microfinance Day, and there is also European Microfinance Network. Regularly, they have a grant for researchers in the university in the Europe to do research on how to get the financial inclusion through digitalization. So for example, here we have Association of Self-Funded Communities, ACAF, that also conduct this research in the Europe. Next, please. Next. Okay, so this is the characteristic of Islamic microfinance. So as we know that the microfinance the vehicle that giving access for finance to people, especially for those that not really covered by bank or not bankable. And the characteristic in Islamic microfinance, of course, Sharia compliance, the product and services. And based on the research, 40% of Muslim, they tend to use financial products that related or suitable with their beliefs. So this is the research on what is the preferences of Muslim. And still from the research, the Islamic microfinance, if we manage it properly, can help to alleviate poverty. But right now, some maybe owner of microfinance also tend to only get the benefit of this institution. So they establish this institution for the sake of grant, maybe from the government, only for profit. But if we can manage properly based on the study, the uniqueness of Islamic microfinance, especially the profit and loss sharing mechanism, such as mudoroba, musyarakah, may increase the income of the clients better than debt-based financing, such as murabaha. Next. So this is the business recovery. So how business may recover post the pandemic. This one has been highlighted by Prof. Nurul as well. So in COVID-19 pandemic, there are two shocks together for the small and medium enterprise and all industry in the supply side and demand side. In the supply side, of course, the supply chain disruption and labor supply shock. And in demand side, the people tend to reduce the spending, trying to focus on the essential things for them and not use for the not really important for them. Next, please. And this is the financial reforms and initiative maybe that have been done by some institution. Of course, managing, mitigating risk in balance sheet management, how to increase the capital of the institution, and capital market development send clear signals, especially right now, the millennials also join the capital market. So 60% in Indonesia, the investors are millennials. So this is quite important because the company need to send right signal to the millennials based on their behavior. And third is financial innovation, how we find innovative way to mitigate the risk, especially during the pandemic. Yeah. So after the pandemic, now we are seeking for the opportunity. And the important thing is it is important to have regional financial arrangement, especially to support the low income, middle income country. So the regional arrangement may also seek help from the international financial institution to help the low or middle income poor country to survive. Next, please. So what we can do to build the good, we are in the education also disruptive. Right now, maybe in the class, we are using the hybrid mode. Sometimes in the maybe a difficult time, we ask our students to join through online, yeah. And what is the opportunity after the pandemic? So I think there is also change in business style, yeah. So some company must now looking for opportunity using technology for their business. Especially we are also adapt with the Z generation, the digital native, yeah. They are born with the digital skills, and how the company may also adapt with this. And we also learn from the pandemic. So which sectors that really suffers from this pandemic? How if we couldn't support with the logistic, the transportation, how we adapt with the situation. So I think this is important to learn what is the lesson learned from this pandemic, and the ability to begin to look around the corner. So what is the opportunity in the future? What is the risk in the future? Next, please. The formal Islamic microfinance institution, actually there are more than 4,000, but of course the informal one, more than 100,000 of microfinance institution. I think previous slide, before this one. but this is the formal numbers, and there are around more than 60 million of small medium enterprise. So I think this is a good opportunity, especially to for Indonesia, especially because Indonesia also rely heavily on small and medium enterprise. Next, please. And this is the role of Islamic microfinance. Since Islamic microfinance in Indonesia, we call it BMT, ya, Baitul Mal wa Tamwil, Bapak dan Ibu. And the role is not only for profit, but also for social. And Islamic social finance is really important, the awqaf, the zakah, infak, yeah. And the first role is to enhance the well-being of lower income people and small businesses. So how the Islamic microfinance can give financial access that Sharia compliance and also combined with Islamic social finance to maybe giving Qardul Hasan from the Islamic Social Finance Fund and continue from third-party fund from the members for the advanced scheme until Mudoroba, for example, and Musyarakah. The second one is also giving financial and social assistance. So Islamic microfinance is quite flexible and can prepare a program for the members. So regularly monitoring with pengajian, for example, with informal activities, it is also possible, unlike bank industry. And also providing education and health services. So I think the important thing for the poor not only receive finance or microfinance, but it is also important to have a good education, to have a good sanitation, clean water access for them. So it is good physically and will help them to become more productive. And promoting society's well-being through its function of Baitul Mal. So this is also, I think, the crucial part, because not all microfinance at the moment act as a Baitul Mal. So they forget the Baitul Mal, only focus on the commercial side of BMT. Next, please. Now the issue of sustainability, as mentioned by Prof. Mansur in the beginning, that the Maqasid Syariah can also review the SDGs. So because the SDGs related, yeah, with the Maqasid Syariah, with the principle of sustainability in Islam. So first is moderation, for example, Al-Mizan, Khalifah, building the earth and building a human, avoidance of israf and al-tafsir. So this is the SDGs. For example, for moderation, wasatiyah, this one related to SDGs number 3, good health and well-being, for example. And number 17, partnership for the goals. So we have done this one in Islamic finance. So this is not something new for Islamic finance, because right now all topic is about SDGs. We are achieving until 2030. But actually Islamic finance have done this before. And for example, Al-Mizan, this one related to goals number 7, for example, affordable and clean energy. Number 10, reduce inequalities. And for the Khalifah, the trustees, this one related to number 11, sustainable city and communities, for example. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. And for the building the earth, building the human, this one also suitable with goals number 9, 16, and 17. The last thing is to avoid the israf and tafsir. This one also suitable with no poverty, tanpa kelaparan, zero hunger. And also number 6, clean water and sanitation. 13, 14, and 15 about the environment. So I think the SDGs is not something new. And in Indonesia, based on Bappenas, the Bappenas divided into 4 pillars. So social pillars, economic pillars, governance pillars, and environment pillars. So this is, I think, related to the Maqasid Syariah. Next. Can Islamic microfinance help economic and business recovery? So this is the question for us. First is because this is potential for Indonesia, since Indonesia is the largest Muslim majority countries. And of course, the product and services for the Islamic bank from the Islamic microfinance really suitable for us. But unfortunately, yeah, we are still left behind from Malaysia, from other countries. The asset from our microfinance, asset from our Islamic bank still limited. So this is the duty for us to boost the potential of Muslim population with Islamic financial institution, including Islamic microfinance. Second, Islamic finance is tied to the real economy. So all product and services, if we are conduct, implement properly, of course related with the real economy. Third one is fulfilling with the objective of Sharia, maqasid Sharia, and of course suitable with the SDGs, and combined focus on halalan and toiban and Islamic social finance can become the secret weapon for Islamic finance. So because the growth of halal industry is also significant, halal industry not only halal finance but halal food, halal tourism, halal pharmaceutical, halal fashion, yeah, that covers all lifestyle of Muslim. And if we combine with Islamic social finance, especially post-pandemic, we can recover quicker, yeah, than we can imagine. And the last slide about the collaboration between microfinance and startup industry. Right now, there is some microfinance that collaborate with the peer-to-peer lending, Islamic fintech, such as Investry, for example. And since BMT also do the social finance, we also have Amazing Wakaf. And in the US, this one, the conventional, they have also Finca International, Fair Money, sorry, that combine the technology for implementing the principle in Islamic microfinance. I think that's all from me. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Bayu Arifianto, PhD. And for the last speaker is Bapak Imam Hidayat Sunarto. He is a Regional Chief Executive Officer of BSI Semarang. His educational background, he was graduated from Universitas Gadjah Mada Jogja, and for the master from Universitas Muslim Indonesia Makassar. And the theme for today is BSI Acceleration on Business Recovery. Pak Imam, time is yours. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukrulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Bapak Ibu sekalian, please allow me to deliver my presentation in Indonesian, and I hope I can explain more clearly in Indonesian than in English. Terima kasih. Materi yang akan saya sampaikan terkait dengan BSI Acceleration on Business Recovery. Pada slide yang pertama, kita melihat bahwa pada saat ini, ya, alhamdulillah Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwa kita bisa berharap sesungguhnya terhadap transisi, ya, perubahan dari era pandemi menuju endemi. Kita melihat bagaimana tingkat vaksinasi secara nasional yang terus meningkat, kemudian juga kasus harian yang terus menurun, meskipun dalam beberapa hari pasca Lebaran kita melihat adanya peningkatan kembali kasus harian yang pada saat ini mencapai di atas 1.000 orang setiap harinya. Tetapi tentunya ini juga harus kita syukuri Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwasanya apa yang kemudian menjadi relaksasi kelonggaran-kelonggaran yang diberikan oleh pemerintah Indonesia, termasuk bagaimana Presiden Jokowi memberikan kelonggaran dalam hal pemakaian masker pada tempo hari, itu menunjukkan adanya harapan terhadap kondisi pandemi yang mengarah kepada endemi dan tentunya akan mengarah juga kepada perbaikan perekonomian dari bangsa kita. Pada next slide, saya ingin menyampaikan bahwa
beberapa hal yang kemudian mendorong perekonomian Indonesia yang dapat kita harapkan memberikan prospek yang lebih baik pada masa depan adalah terus meningkatnya harga komoditas ekspor utama, yaitu CPO dan batu bara. Dengan kondisi seperti itu, maka kami bisa menyadari bahwa kemudian proyeksi yang dikeluarkan oleh Kementerian Keuangan terhadap pertumbuhan ekonomi di tahun 2022 meskipun lebih konservatif dibandingkan dengan lembaga-lembaga asing lainnya, sehingga kita bisa melihat proyeksi pertumbuhan ekonomi Indonesia pada tahun 2022 ada di kisaran 5-6%. Tentunya ini sekali lagi menunjukkan adanya harapan yang lebih cerah bagaimana pada pertumbuhan perekonomian masa pandemi selama 2 tahun terakhir yang kemudian saat ini akan terus meningkat, ya, memberikan harapan cerah, dan nanti kita lihat bagaimana case yang terjadi di sektor perbankan. Ya. Pada next slide terlihat bahwa ya banking industry overview kita mulai memasuki overview terhadap industri perbankan, bahwa industri syariah perbankan saat ini ya, itu menunjukkan salah satu yang memiliki opportunity atau peluang yang sangat atraktif. Salah satunya ditunjukkan bagaimana pertumbuhan secara aset perbankan syariah ya, yang ada di Indonesia itu adalah yang paling tinggi dibandingkan dengan negara-negara yang lain, termasuk negara-negara yang ada di Middle East, yaitu di kisaran 10%. Demikian juga return on asset yang menunjukkan angka di 1,9%. Dibandingkan dengan pertumbuhan perbankan syariah dengan perbankan konvensional atau secara nasional, maka terlihat pula adanya pertumbuhan aset yang lebih tinggi dibandingkan dengan konvensional. Meskipun secara absolut pastinya Bapak Ibu sekalian bahwa aset dari perbankan konvensional secara nasional masih jauh lebih tinggi dibandingkan dengan perbankan syariah. Namun secara pertumbuhan kita melihat perbankan syariah ada di kisaran 13,8% dibandingkan dengan pertumbuhan perbankan konvensional 7,8%. Di sisi lain, dengan pertumbuhan yang cukup baik, seperti yang tadi saya sampaikan bahwa secara absolut tentunya ya, bahwa aset perbankan syariah, kalau kita melihat perbandingan secara persentase terhadap GDP di Indonesia itu adalah yang paling rendah, ya, yang paling kecil saat ini. Nah, ini tentunya menjadi tantangan, peluang ya bagaimana ke depan perbankan syariah dengan meningkatkan terus sosialisasi, kemudian tingkat inklusi, kemudian juga edukasi kepada masyarakat akan jauh lebih memberikan kesempatan kepada perbankan syariah untuk meningkatkan market share di perbankan nasional. Pada next slide terlihat bahwa dari seluruh item bisnis dalam sektor perbankan maupun rasio-rasio keuangan juga tidak kalah dibandingkan dengan perbankan konvensional. Pertumbuhan dari sisi aset kita melihat ya, bahwa pada tahun 2021 aset perbankan syariah adalah sebesar 650 triliun, meningkat sebesar 13,94% dibandingkan tahun 2020. Sementara untuk perbankan nasional itu adalah sebesar 10.298 triliun dan meningkat 10,16% dibandingkan tahun lalu. Demikian pula dalam item bisnis yang lain, dalam penyaluran pembiayaan, kemudian dana pihak ketiga, itu juga menunjukkan persentage yang lebih tinggi dari perbankan syariah dibandingkan perbankan nasional. Alhamdulillah, ya, dari tingkat NPF atau NPL, non-performing financing atau non-performing loan, perbankan syariah juga lebih baik dibandingkan dengan perbankan nasional. Pada next slide, kita melihat sekali lagi Bapak Ibu bahwa Indonesia sebagai the largest Muslim country itu adalah menjadi peluang ya bagi perbankan syariah untuk betul-betul bisa memberikan layanan produk dan jasa perbankan syariah yang lebih dekat, yang lebih bisa dinikmati oleh masyarakat, oleh nasabah, sekaligus memberikan solusi finansial yang lebih baik dibandingkan dengan perbankan nasional secara keseluruhan. Kemudian pada next slide ya Bapak Ibu, kita melihat di sini ya bagaimana Indonesia sebagai the largest Muslim population in the world ya terlihat memiliki persentase Muslim terhadap total population itu adalah sebesar 87,20%. Ini termasuk yang tertinggi dibandingkan dengan beberapa negara lain ya. Namun demikian, apabila kita melihat market share perbankan syariah terhadap perbankan nasional, sekali lagi ya, bahwa market share perbankan syariah itu masih di kisaran 6,4%, masih sangat jauh dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lain, terutama yang ada di Middle East, termasuk juga Malaysia. Malaysia 29% ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Nah, kalau kita melihat pada next slide, sebetulnya apa yang sudah kami upayakan ya, untuk terus memperbaiki layanan produk dan jasa perbankan syariah itu terlihat dari 45%, kurang lebih 45% ya. Adanya karakteristik nasabah yang memiliki preferensi syariah yang kuat, yaitu yang berkarakteristik universalis dan konformis. Totalnya adalah 45%. Apakah kemudian untuk karakteristik nasabah yang rasionalis, yang preferensinya adalah fungsional, kemudian yang apatis preferensinya adalah pricing atau harga yang murah, gitu ya, itu tidak menjadi concern bagi perbankan syariah? Tentunya justru ini menjadi peluang yang sangat besar. Kami bisa sampaikan Bapak Ibu sekalian bahwa pasca merger Bank BSI yang sebelumnya dari Bank BNI Syariah, Bank Syariah Mandiri, dan Bank BRI Syariah, kami bisa menyampaikan adanya tingkat efisiensi yang jauh lebih baik lagi. Kami bisa membangun struktur pendanaan dana pihak ketiga masyarakat yang jauh lebih murah dengan tingkat kurang lebih di kisaran 70% pada saat ini. Struktur dana pihak ketiga kami terdiri dari dana-dana tabungan dan giro. Artinya dengan struktur dana murah, maka kami akan mampu untuk memberikan pricing penyaluran pembiayaan yang jauh lebih kompetitif. Bapak Ibu bisa membuktikan beberapa produk kami saat ini adalah yang terbaik, yang paling murah dibandingkan dengan bank-bank swasta sekalipun yang selama ini menjadi top of mind di market kita. Ya, termasuk dua di antaranya adalah pembiayaan untuk kepemilikan rumah dan pembiayaan untuk kepemilikan kendaraan. Bapak Ibu bisa buktikan dengan memanfaatkan produk kami khususnya untuk pembiayaan perumahan dan otomotif. Nah, kita melihat di sisi sebelah kanan memang kami menyadari betul tingkat literasi dan inklusi dari perbankan syariah saat ini memang masih sangat rendah. Ini yang kemudian akan terus kami tingkatkan Bapak Ibu. Kami tidak bergerak sendiri, kami menggandeng Bank Indonesia, kemudian Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, kemudian KNEKS, kemudian juga Masyarakat Ekonomi Syariah. Kita akan bersama-sama dengan Majelis Ulama Indonesia. Kita sudah siapkan program-program untuk mendukung literasi dan inklusi perbankan syariah yang jauh lebih baik lagi ke depan. Kemudian pada next slide, bagaimana harapan dari Presiden, kemudian juga Wakil Presiden sampai dengan Menteri BUMN, betul-betul kita BSI diharapkan sebagai momentum kebangkitan raksasa perbankan syariah yang ada di Indonesia, sekaligus diharapkan menjadi top 10 global Islamic banking. Alhamdulillah beberapa waktu yang lalu, 1 tahun setelah merger, kami kemudian segera membuka cabang di luar negeri, tepatnya di Dubai, di Uni Emirat Arab. Insya Allah apa yang menjadi harapan dari pemerintah, insya Allah betul-betul menjadi amanah yang harus kami jalankan ya, untuk merealisasikannya. Nah, beberapa proses merger yang sudah terjadi ya, pada slide 11 itu terlihat bahwa pada tahun 2021 kami telah menyelesaikan seluruh proses merger. Dan kemudian pada tanggal 1 November 2021, kami memasuki satu era baru yang kami sebut dengan Customer Day One. Seluruh proses telah terintegrasi dalam satu sistem, dalam seluruh cabang yang ada di Indonesia. Sehingga insya Allah setelah memasuki era Customer Day One, maka layanan yang akan diberikan kepada masyarakat dari 3 bank legacy akan jauh lebih baik dibandingkan sebelumnya. Kemudian yang berikutnya pada slide 12, ya, kita melihat bahwa sebelum merger, ya, bagaimana bank-bank kita adalah termasuk bank-bank dengan size aset yang kecil, jauh di bawah ranking bank nasional yang lain. Namun demikian, begitu kita merger, ya, maka pada slide ke-13 kita menjadi ranking 7, Bapak Ibu sekalian, ya, dengan aset 265 triliun, ya, didukung oleh tabungan sebesar 99 triliun. Demikian pula indikator keuangan berupa net interest margin maupun tingkat efisiensi BOPO juga menunjukkan angka-angka yang bersaing, yang kompetitif di antara bank nasional di Indonesia. Kemudian pada slide yang ke-14 kita melihat bahwa merger betul-betul memberikan penguatan pada segala aspek, pada seluruh aspek aktivitas dari Bank Syariah Indonesia, mulai dari human resources capability, kemudian jaringan yang demikian luas, kantor cabang yang lebih dari 1.000 cabang di seluruh Indonesia, kemudian produk-produk yang lebih bervariatif pada seluruh segmen, corporate, wholesale, ya, kemudian consumer maupun mikro. Kemudian IT sistemnya juga mendukung. Kami terus mengembangkan IT dalam rangka digitalisasi pada era saat ini, ya, untuk memberikan kemudahan yang lebih luas lagi kepada masyarakat dengan digitalisasi, dengan internet banking, dengan mobile banking. Kapital tentunya saat ini dengan 25 triliun modal inti kami memungkinkan kami untuk berkontribusi dalam hal pembiayaan-pembiayaan yang berskala besar. Kemudian beberapa indikator, ya, juga menunjukkan hal yang positif. Beberapa indikator keuangan baik dari financing growth, kemudian saving account, cost of credit, cost of fund, ya, dan seterusnya. Kami alhamdulillah menunjukkan angka-angka yang progresif pada tahun 2021 dan tentunya akan terus kami lanjutkan pada tahun 2022 ini. Next slide. Kemudian pada tahun roadmap kami selama 5 tahun ke depan, ya, pasca merger hingga tahun 2025, kami menargetkan yang saat ini customer base kami itu adalah sebesar 15 juta customer menjadi 40 juta customer, ya. Kemudian dari sisi aset juga kami berharap yang saat ini 265 triliun menjadi di atas 500 triliun. Nah, apa yang kemudian harus kami lakukan selama, ya, era pandemi? Tentunya yang pertama, Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami harus melakukan penguatan kepada manajemen risiko, kebijakan-kebijakan yang terkait dengan manajemen risiko. Pada prinsipnya, apa yang kami salurkan yang bersumber dari dana masyarakat kepada pembiayaan, baik wholesale, kemudian pada segmen SME, pada segmen mikro, consumer, seluruhnya menjadi amanah bagi Bank Syariah Indonesia untuk memberikan hasil yang optimal kepada masyarakat yang telah menitipkan, yang telah menyimpan dananya kepada Bank Syariah Indonesia. Untuk itu, manajemen risiko menjadi sangat penting. Kami tidak mungkin untuk bisa menyalurkan kepada sektor-sektor yang saat ini masih terdampak pandemi. Namun demikian, relaksasi kelonggaran terhadap nasabah-nasabah yang terdampak tentunya mengacu betul kepada peraturan POJK. Kami memberikan restrukturisasi dan kelonggaran-kelonggaran lain, ya. Tetapi dalam penyaluran pembiayaan baru, kami sangat selektif pada saat ini. Ada sektor-sektor yang saat ini menjadi concern dan unggulan kami. Yang pertama adalah sektor pendidikan, kesehatan, kemudian linkage BMT, Baitul Mal wa Tamil, dan ada beberapa sektor lain. termasuk bagaimana kami juga concern kepada pembiayaan yang bersumber dari proyek-proyek SBSN atau Sukuk. Yang berikutnya yang kami lakukan setelah kita melihat adanya secerca harapan ya terhadap kondisi pandemi saat ini adalah dengan terus meningkatkan distribusi atau jaringan atau kantor layanan yang berbasis kepada digitalisasi. Ya. Yang pertama adalah kami akan melakukan penataan kantor cabang kami. Saat ini Bapak Ibu kalau mengetahui bagaimana pada sebelum merger beberapa bank legacy kami, BNI Syariah, BSM maupun BRI Syariah berdekatan kantornya, berhadap-hadapan, berseberangan. Itu kami lakukan penataan. Dan kemudian kami masukkan juga keunggulan-keunggulan teknologi sehingga kami menyebutnya bionic branch ya. Ada hybrid antara petugas-petugas kami dengan keunggulan teknologi. Transaksi-transaksi bisa dilayani tidak hanya dengan petugas-petugas yang ada di cabang, tetapi melalui mesin-mesin ATM sekarang juga bisa menyetor tunai. Kemudian juga pembukaan rekening bisa melalui BSI Mobile. Itu yang terus kami dorong untuk meningkatkan layanan yang berbasis digitalisasi. Kemudian pegawai-pegawai yang saat ini masih ada ya di kantor-kantor cabang akan kami dorong dari yang sebelumnya sifatnya layanan kepada upaya-upaya untuk melakukan penjualan produk-produk dan jasa perbankan syariah BSI secara lebih agresif. Kemudian pada era digitalisasi saat ini ya, kita melihat berdasarkan data yang ada, ternyata ada 202,6 juta ya, digital user di Indonesia dan 39%-nya itu adalah pengguna-pengguna atau user yang memanfaatkan digitalisasi dari produk-produk perbankan. Kemudian ya, pada slide berikutnya kita melihat bahwa pengguna atau user dari BSI Mobile yang terus kami kembangkan juga terus meningkat Bapak Ibu sekalian, baik user register maupun user aktif ya. Dan saat ini user register kami itu adalah 3.773 nasabah, sementara user aktif adalah 1.831 nasabah ya. Dan ini akan terus kami tingkatkan karena ini akan menjadi layanan terbaik bagi nasabah pada era digitalisasi saat ini. Bagi kami BSI Mobile, Bapak Ibu sekalian, memiliki 3 slogan. Yang pertama adalah sahabat finansial, yang kedua sahabat spiritual, dan yang ketiga adalah sahabat sosial. Sahabat finansial, Bapak Ibu sekalian, tidak harus datang lagi ke kantor cabang. Cukup menggunakan HP setiap saat dan tidak terpaku kepada jam operasional. Bapak Ibu bisa melakukan transfer pada malam hari ya, sesuai dengan kelonggaran waktu Bapak Ibu sekalian. Sementara untuk sahabat sosial, Bapak Ibu akan mudah sekali untuk bisa berbagi rizki, menyalurkan sedekah kepada pihak-pihak yang memerlukan. Karena fitur-fitur yang ada di BSI Mobile sudah memungkinkan untuk melakukan zakat, infak, sedekah. Kemudian sahabat spiritual Bapak Ibu sangat mudah untuk mengetahui jadwal sholat, kemudian masjid terdekat ketika Bapak Ibu ada di luar kota, silahkan dibuka fitur masjid terdekat, 20 masjid terdekat ketika Bapak Ibu ada di luar kota, dan sebagainya. Insya Allah itu akan terus kami kembangkan ya. Kemudian Islamic ecosystem juga demikian Bapak Ibu, ini menjadi salah satu concern kami. Bagaimana kami harus melayani lebih baik kepada pesantren-pesantren, kepada masjid-masjid, ya, pembayaran ziswaf, ya, kemudian Islamic education, halal, e-commerce, dan sebagainya. Halal ekosistem, Islamic ekosistem adalah yang paling berhak adalah perbankan syariah untuk bisa memberikan layanan terbaik. Untuk itu, Bank BSI sebagai bank syariah yang terbesar di Indonesia menjadikan Islamic ecosystem sebagai salah satu concern untuk memberikan layanan terbaik kepada masyarakat. Yang terakhir, tentunya kita juga mengakomodir beberapa program dari Bank Indonesia. Salah satunya adalah KRIS. KRIS memungkinkan Bapak Ibu sekalian sekarang untuk berdonasi, untuk bersedekah cukup hanya dengan melakukan tapping ya, terhadap QR code yang ada di masjid-masjid dan sebagainya. Itu juga akan memberikan satu keberpihakan kita terhadap upaya-upaya untuk mencegah ya, kembali mewabahnya pandemi karena bersifat cashless. Terakhir, mohon izin bahwa alhamdulillah pada tahun 2021 yang lalu, kami Bank Syariah Indonesia tidak lupa untuk mengeluarkan zakat dari pendapatan yang kami terima. Selain zakat pegawai sebesar 22,5 miliar, alhamdulillah zakat perusahaan di tahun 2021 sebesar 100 miliar juga sudah kami keluarkan yang berasal dari pendapatan yang kami operasionalkan dari bisnis yang telah kami jalankan di 2021. Demikian yang dapat kami sampaikan, kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah, wallahul muwafiq ila aqwamit thoriq, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Bapak Imam Hidayat Sunarto. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is because time constraint. One question for three presenters, yeah. One presenter, one question, yeah. If you have question, then please raise your hand and mention your name and where are you from, and then please ask the question directly. Is there a question? Okay, pass. If pass, then I will read from the message, Ibu. Yeah. From untuk Ibu Nurul. Yeah. Question for you. There is one message for you and one for Bapak Bayu. Yeah. For Ibu Nurul, about your material that talk about innovation in marketing. You said that we must sell product using different method or using online. But many SMEs in Indonesia have problem about digital inclusion. So what innovation that you suggest to overcome this? Monggo Ibu. Monggo langsung.
Okay. Thanks for the questions and comments. Being digital, I think is a must at this moment because we still have the situations where the distance, the social distancing matters. So if the company sells the products and the customers cannot access the products, meaning that the products have to be visible to the market. So using digitalizations, I think is a starting point, yeah. But then the company must make sure the back office will support the market side, because some companies, they are doing digitalizations. They open two lines of marketing, two lines of selling the products offline, and then digital online. They are opening with the Instagram, the Facebook channel, for instance, but they are not really well prepared in terms of the back office side. So if that happens, I think that will be trouble for the company. So at this moment, I think it's good for the company to be visible in the market, but then if the pandemic offers, so I think you have to rethinking whether digitalizations is really supporting to the process of delivering the product, or will be another problem. Yeah. Yeah. Because that will be related to the informations must be
accurate, the informations about the back office side, whether the products is available or not, or also the company has to access the market side. They have to open the orders all the time, and I think this is the company needs dedicated staff, yeah, to support this kind of activities, which is in the context of small medium enterprises may be an issue, yeah, because adding the staff who has the ability in terms of digital aspect, that also may be costly for the company. And another situations, especially for the companies who are located in the rural area where the infrastructure of IT is not really well supported, it is also an issue. Yeah. So being digital is one thing, but then the next is, I think, to my opinions, better for the company to do the partnership with the bigger companies when they can communicate if they have products, so they can make the subcontract with the bigger company, and the bigger company, they have the ability to digitalize marketing. So I think that's my personal point of view.
Yeah.
Thanks for the questions again.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prof. Nurul. And the last question for Pak Bayu. Microfinance is aimed at people who find it difficult to reach large financial facilities. Then, however, this is vulnerable because the segmentation of people who reach microfinance is usually from those with minimal financial literacy. Then, so sometimes it is entangled in dangers like we may say like pinjol, like that, yeah. So what is your strategy to solve this problem?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think the Islamic microfinance can combine with the Islamic social finance. So for those that in the poorest, the one that really vulnerable, can help first with the Qardul Hasan, for example, to make their business survive, then can increase to other advanced scheme like Murabaha and Mudoroba, for example. And for the financial literacy, this is very important. Not only the duty for the government, but also for academics, also for the society to give knowledge to the people that the financial literacy is important. So they are not trapped in the pinjol activities. They will know which financial institution that really support them, especially for Islamic financial institutions. Since pinjol, they also charge the interest, and then there is also involved in the gharar, uncertainty, maisir, gambling. Yeah, so it is important for them to only maybe spend what they need, so not follow the lifestyle, for example. So especially for the millennials, the Z generation, the digital native, they sometimes ask from pinjol only for buying new bags, new fashion, for instance. It is important, maybe even in the Islamic perspective, Islamic finance, we are not allowed to borrow and invest in Islamic stock, for example. So it is important to use our own money to manage, maybe like 60%, 70% for our life, then the rest for investment, for zakah, of course, 2.5% if we are exceed the nisab. Then also for the infaq, also for the saving, investment. So we need to manage, and this is related to personal finance. So I think that's my answer, Pak.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Bayu. Oke, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, semua presenter atau semua speaker sudah menyampaikan materi masing-masing. Ini kesempatan yang bagus sekali untuk bertukar pandangan dengan para presenter kita hari ini. Namun demikian, karena waktu juga yang sudah sangat mepet, sangat limit, maka kegiatan conference internasional hari ini untuk main session atau sesi utama harus kita akhiri. Mohon Bapak Ibu berkenan untuk memberikan aplaus kepada para speaker kita. Terima kasih sebesar-besarnya untuk Prof. Nurul Indarti. Bapak Imam dari BSI. Terima kasih banyak atas materi-materinya. Kemudian semoga kita bisa segera bertemu lagi di lain kesempatan. Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya sebagai moderator mohon maaf jika ada kekurangan. Saya serahkan kembali waktu kepada MC. Monggo Ibu Manda. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Mr. Agung Guritno, MPDS, the moderator of this conversation. The next agenda is souvenirs giving and photo session. So for all of the speakers and also the moderator, Profesor Mansur Ibrahim, Profesor Nurul Indarti, Mr. Imam Hidayat, PhD, Mr. Bayu Arifianto, PhD, please come forward to achieve the souvenirs from the Dean of Islamic Economics and Business Faculty UIN Salatiga. And for Dr. Hamza Rafiq, the souvenir giving will be given symbolic by online. Okay, thank you for the Dean of FEBI UIN Salatiga and all of the speakers. All right. Now is the photo session. Okay. Thank you for the Dean of FEBU in Salatiga and all of the speakers. And now, for our second souvenir giving agenda is for the active participant that already gave the question for the speakers. So please, Mr. Budi Sudrajat from UIN Banten, come forward to achieve the souvenir from the chairman of committee, Dr. Abdul Aziz. Okay, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the international conference event has ended today. Let us say hamdalah to close this event. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. I, as the host, apologize for all the mistakes. Thank you very much for the attention. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And for the information, the lunch is already prepared in the restaurant. So the audiences can have lunch in the restaurant. And for the VIP audiences, the vice rectors, all of the deans of FEBs and the speakers can have lunch in VIP room. And for next agenda is study program consortium will be held in this hall at 13:30, and for the Dean Pleno meeting is in the Semeru room. And for Musola, you can find in the new building of Laras Asri Resort. Once again, thank you for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.